A handsome young man had just entered and was standing at the door. He was accompanied by a woman of dazzling beauty. Hairstyle, dress, jewelry. On the other side, he was accompanied by something unkempt with a rope around its neck. People said that a man 5 years ago spent all his savings on his beautiful wife, that he did not let his wife go outside, that he is simply obsessed with his wife. Others said that he quickly became bored with his wife, and now I liked another girl. And when he was drunk, he yelled that he wanted to get rid of his wife. Today, a man decided to sell his once beloved and now so hated wife. For Joseph, a wife was just a thing. He paid for it like property taxes are paid. Divorce was too expensive. He wasn't rich. Selling his wife was the only way to get rid of her. When a contract was concluded and the agreed amount was paid, the wife became the property of another person. Bidding has been announced. Joseph quoted a ridiculously low starting bid. 10 rain. The rate grew quickly. 20, 25, 50, 60, 100, 190, 200, 210, 220. The beauty hugged Joseph. He was glad that today he would sell his wife and also earn good money. 300. Joseph guaranteed the buyer that the woman was obedient. And if something goes wrong, you can always insist on your own in any way. The man explained to the buyer that everything needed to be explained to her correctly, that she will be more obedient this way. And if he doesn't like the ugly girl, then he can simply not look at her. The woman's fat buyer has already paid. The purchase and sale transaction at the auction was completed. But then a voice sounded. The voice belonged to the hooded person. He offered to give $5,000 for a woman. The fat customer was furious. He said that none of those present at the auction were so rich. The stranger offered an impressive bar of gold. Joseph was well aware that such a piece of gold was worth much more than the stated purchase price of his wife. All that remains is to sign the purchase and sale agreement. Joseph immediately and joyfully signed the paper. The job was done. The hooded stranger invited the woman he had bought to go with him. Even from under the hood, it was clear that he was young and handsome. A little further from the auction site, a luxurious and spacious carriage was waiting for them. She was guarded by knights in armor. The young and rich buyer first untied the rope around the neck of the woman he bought. The man took off his hood. Young, blue-eyed blonde introduced himself. His name was Ash Vrinicle. He extended his hand. The girl was confused. Her back was bent. The hands also expressed uncertainty and fear. With a very long pause, she extended her hand back and answered, "Chloe." They were riding in a carriage. How much, the woman could not say for sure. It seems she dozed off a little on the way. The estate of Marquis Vrinicles looked fabulously beautiful. The girl looked at the unfamiliar ceiling, the most beautiful room. She only remembered the way here. She didn't remember any further. Maybe she just fell asleep or fainted. The maid arrived. Betsy introduced herself. She said that she would help Chloe get ready. Betsy said she would always be there, and you can call her or someone else by pulling the bell. Betsy offered to help the woman get herself in order. Chloe returned very late last night after falling asleep in the carriage. The maid was horrified by the bruises and scars on the girls' bodies. She understood that the bruises would go away, but the scars will remain forever, reminding us of the past. Betsy invited Chloe to take a bath. To make it faster, the fatigue went away when she warmed up. The water in the bathroom smelled nice. Flower petals floated in the water. The girl remembered how terribly her husband treated her. When she went to a neighbor's house to borrow a sewing needle, he called her a whore, that she went to seduce her neighbor. The husband led Chloe into the water of the lake. He threatened to drown his wife. He made her beg for mercy. The girl couldn't make up her mind. She hesitated. Betsy suggested that Chloe quickly go to the bathroom so as not to freeze. As a result, she lost consciousness. Betsy went to talk to the Marquis. She said that the lady slept well, that she was afraid of the knock on the door, and her whole body is covered in bruises. That Chloe passed out, and the doctor examined her. And then she fell asleep again. Ash understood that such a sudden change in environment was stressful for Chloe, but perhaps there is another explanation for her poor health. He understood that the bruises and scars were the work of that bastard, and they probably scared her so much that now she's afraid of the bathroom. Ash asked the maid if Chloe was still sleeping. He decided to check on her. Ash decided not to mess with that freak for now. He wanted the girl to decide everything herself. The Marquis looked at her sleeping. He noticed how thin she was. And I decided to start with food, think through the menu in detail. Ash gently called the woman's name. Chloe opened her eyes. The Marquis told her that even beauties like her should not sleep so long. The girls even had hair falling onto their faces. Ash asked if he could fix them. She was silent. He asked me to say okay or I don't want to, that everything was not so complicated. He said that there is only her decision, her thoughts and will. Chloe replied that she would respect any decision he made. He repeated his question. The girl nodded. She realized that she could completely control her body. Chloe was sitting in a beautiful dress. Her hair was combed and styled. In front of her was a generously laid table. Ash complimented the girl. He appreciated her hairstyle. The Marquis suggested we start eating. He advised the woman to eat more. Chloe thought the Marquis was strange. By buying it, he was able to get some benefit for himself. But what? What did he want from her? Ash suggested that the girl dip the bread into the soup. He claimed that it would actually taste better this way. Chloe was surprised. Why is she so calm here? It's probably because Joseph won't show up here. Joseph's status would not allow such an estate. The maids bowed to the master. The girl dropped her fork. She was endlessly confused. She asked her to forgive her for the awkwardness. The girl was afraid again. Ash said that this happens to him too. And as if by accident he dropped his fork. He picked up a spoon. He said that it happens more than once. Dropped the spoon. Chloe was surprised. Ash said that after the third time it was hard to call it a mistake. The Marquis claimed that he understood why this happened. It's just fatigue and feeling unwell. He asked the maid Alicia to bring clean utensils. For myself and for Chloe. Ash revealed that Alicia is the head maid. Ash said that you can contact Alicia if there are problems with other servants. Alicia said she was glad to meet Madame. The girl was surprised by this treatment. The Marquis asked Chloe to eat first, and then introduce yourself. But if she doesn't want to eat, there is no need to force herself. He said that she was free in her choice. The girl started with baking. She looked quite attractive. She had never eaten such yummy food in her life. The man said he had entered into a legally binding contract, and now Chloe is his legal wife. The girl was not engaged to her ex-husband and was legally unmarried. But the bastard could do anything, and it was necessary to sort this out quickly. Chloe agreed. Ash said that if she doesn't want to be his wife, he can't change anything yet. The Marquis said that now Chloe is the wife of the Marquis of Renical, which means she became an aristocrat. She didn't make the decision to become his wife. Therefore, Ash gave her the right to choose what she wanted to do next. He offered Chloe 2 options to choose from. The first is if she doesn't want anything. It is not necessary to go out into secular society and fulfill the duties of a spouse. Good clothes, servants, and surroundings are what she deserves. The second option was more difficult. We'll have to learn everything the Marquis needs to know. He suggested various teachers. He will need to attend social events, go to meetings with people. It won't work to sit at home anymore. The Marquis said that not everyone would be kind to her. Perhaps someone will want to humiliate her or use her for low purposes. Ash promised that studying would be hard, and problems could arise, that you want to leave everything to the mercy of fate. But you still have to decide everything. Marquis asked what Chloe chooses. First option or second? The girl looked at the man. She wondered what he was thinking about. She didn't understand why he was so kind to her. She replied that she wanted to take responsibility, but she wouldn't want to worry about what she's not interested in. She would like to choose something in between the 2 options. Ash was surprised. It turned out that his wife was more greedy than he thought. But that's a good thing. He said that Chloe is the wife of the Marquis and can enjoy these. The Marquis suggested inviting all the teachers first. He warned that if it was difficult for her, or she could not find a common language with the teacher, he would help fix it. The girl spent several days in bed. She was recovering from the brutality she had suffered earlier. But time passed. Everything fell into place. The Marquis had to leave early today, and the maid brought gifts from him to Chloe. Betsy invited the lady to open the boxes, and she agreed. The maid noticed a change in Chloe's voice, so she was getting better. There was a beautiful soft bear in the box. The maid invited the girl to hug the toy. It was so nice. Chloe liked the toy's cute face, and when she pressed her to herself, it seemed to her that someone soft was hugging her. He reminded her of a teddy bear from her childhood. The toy was just like in her childhood. Bo. The left corner of the mouth is higher than the right, only there was no pocket behind the ear. She used it as a child to exchange notes with her friend. This was their secret. Chloe remembered her childhood, how they ran and their skirts fluttered, how they looked for ribbons for each other. This was her happiest time. Thanks to the bear, the girl remembered such pleasant days of childhood. That was enough for her. She didn't know anything then. The maid knew that the bear was made to special order. She expected a huge diamond to be attached to it. The Marquis was very insightful, and Chloe really liked the gift. Betsy invited the lady to explore the house if it was not too difficult for her. Chloe assured that everything was fine. The maid showed the girl the door, and she said that you can visit all the rooms except for the one behind the door. Only the gentleman could enter there. That was the order. The maid did not say that she was cleaning that room. After all, Madame could ask what was behind the door. The order with the door reminded Chloe of the fairy tale about Bluebeard. She promised to remember the forbidden door and not go there. Neither exploration of the estate took the whole day. The girl was told that there was a forest and a lake on the territory, but the journey there by carriage will take about an hour. Chloe hasn't walked this much for a long time. Now that she was free, everything felt completely different. I wasn't in a good mood. Ash saw the girl hugging the bear. He was glad that his gift was liked so much. Chloe greeted the Marquis. She was told that he was away on business. Ash greeted back. He finished earlier than expected. The girl thanked him for the gift. Ash told her to ask him if she needed anything. Chloe replied that that was enough for her. The Marquis said that there are those who did not have a happy childhood, but he saw that the girl was happier before. Chloe agreed with the Marquis that she was happy as a child. When she had a similar teddy bear, she was the happiest child. She asked the Marquis if his parents gave him this bear. He replied that they had not given him anything like this, because he was a man. Ash asked if Chloe liked the manor. She said it was beautiful and majestic. The Marquis wondered when the girl would be ready to accept teachers. She promised it would be tomorrow. The man replied that invitations should be sent now. He suggested making a plan together so Chloe wouldn't overwork herself. Young woman, I asked to start by calling only female teachers. She was scared. Ash agreed with this rule. Ash claimed that Chloe looked absolutely beautiful, although he and the rest of the male servants live at the estate. And the girl agreed. Since the men will be from the subordinates of the Marquis and he himself, she was surprised where she had such faith. The Marquis asked him not to explain himself. He assured that everything was fine. And most importantly, Chloe feels great. He argued that everyone has different characters, both men and women, that there are both bad and good. The girl thought about it. Then what kind of Marquis Ash Vrinicle? Can she trust him? The next day the teacher arrived. She introduced herself as Elowen Hosvid. She taught etiquette. And she suggested that Chloe feel free to ask questions as the training progressed. The next one introduced herself as Melissa Ayton. She said that with the help of books you can cause a storm of emotions, and she would like to share this with Chloe. Kay Ader in Labaron said that her father only the Viscount, but she would like to be friends with Chloe. On the first day, the teachers just introduced themselves and left. Betsy considered the Marquis very meticulous. One teacher was a famous countess, the other only in narrow circles. She argued that teachers would be able to support Chloe in a secular society. The girl understood what was going on and how wisely Ash was acting. Before that, she had not communicated with people for 3 years. Her parents were representatives of the middle class, had their own business, lived in prosperity, although they could not be called aristocrats. As a girl, she believed then that she would be free forever. But her parents were killed by bandits. Betsy called Madame to have a look. The Marquis sent her many new things as gifts. He thought that what had been prepared before would not be enough. Dresses, shoes, jewelry. The maid offered to try them on. She asked where Chloe wanted to start. Chloe liked the yellow dress. Betsy said any color would suit the lady's fair skin. The maid confirmed that the dress fit the lady very well. The Marquis had good taste. The girl pinned the most delicate decorations in the form of flowers into her hair. She agreed that Ash had really good taste, and in a chic dress, after trying on the jewelry, she became even more beautiful than she was. Everyone was smiling that day too. She and her parents. Before her mother died, Chloe also wore a yellow dress. She chose him one last time. Ash had his hands full. He returned only in the morning, tired but glad to be home. Previously, the Marquis did not have much to do, and he came to Chloe several times a day, and she got used to it. But now he was always busy, and she was already accustomed to his visits. For a girl, men have always been incomprehensible. So Ash also seemed somehow incomprehensible. Before, she didn't even suspect that she was being taken advantage of. But now she has found freedom, and she realized how easy it was to manipulate her. When her parents died, a neighbor couple came to pay off their debts. They said that the parents' business had failed. This meant that Chloe would live in an orphanage, caring for other children. While she was suffering at work, that married couple never took an interest in the girl's life. One day she saw them from a distance. They were richer than last time. The director of the shelter constantly talked about how men treated women outside the shelter. Chloe, overcome with fear, stopped going outside. Instead, she began to do even more dirty, thankless work. The girl asked the director about money for her work, but she was told that staying in a shelter was expensive, and she wasn't paid for her work. The headmistress also forbade Chloe from wearing jewelry so as not to attract men. After all, it's dangerous, and she herself wore rather extravagant clothes. The director, choosing the best clothes, called the girl, and then I was happy when I compared myself with her. Trouble happened when a child under the girl's care fell ill. The shelter became poor. Chloe was given to a wealthy sponsor. The girl prayed for the child's health. Then she ended up with Joseph, who was 15 years older than her. Chloe was remembering the past. She saw more and more clearly the reason for the misfortunes that had happened to her. The ill-mannered fool made the wrong choice. Ash called her name. Lost in thought, she hid her head in her shoulders. The Marquise was worried about what happened to the girl. What was she thinking about? Ash complimented the girl's dress, said the purple dress suited her skin and eyes perfectly. Chloe thanked her. The Marquis asked if she liked the clothes he had chosen. The Marquise asked if it was true that she liked that yellow dress. Ash suggested visiting a clothing store together in the future. And you don't have to buy anything. You can just look to understand its taste. The Marquis suggested taking measurements of her figure, and also invite a designer. He reminded her that all this was necessary if she wanted it. Chloe asked if she could do that. Ash claimed that she was his dear wife, and he reminded that she was an aristocrat. Aristocrats sometimes spend all their money on dresses and accessories. Ash suggested that Chloe do the same sometimes, and don't pay attention to anyone. The Marquis asked if the girl had any questions for him. She wondered why he bought it. She thought about it constantly. But I was afraid to find out the truth. The next day, Elaine Hayswade came to see Chloe. There was an etiquette lesson to come. The teacher said that remaining silent is not a wrong choice, but it was better to express my opinion when necessary. That sometimes silence can lead to some misunderstandings. The teacher was sure that this was not the first time for Chloe to have such lessons. Therefore, from the next lesson, she promised to move to a more difficult level. Chloe has studied this level of etiquette since she was a child, and only now she realized that she still had a lot to learn. Melissa Anton taught history classes. She was interested in how previous classes with other teachers had gone. The girl assured her that she liked everything. The teacher sighed with relief and smiled. Melissa asked who Chloe learned to write like that from. She assured that many young aristocrats did not know Harriosh so well. The teacher expressed the opinion that her parents cared seriously about her education. In the Empire, 1 language was used for oral speech and 2 for writing. Melissa asked Chloe to let her know if the pace of learning was uncomfortable. She said that she was not smart enough to understand an opinion from a person's facial expression. When the teacher found out that the girl had liked books since childhood, she was very happy. She was sure that the love of books remains at any age. Melissa said that books remain the same, and especially the library of the Marquis Viv of Rinical. She was wonderful. The Marquise's library was famous for containing many valuable books. Melissa asked Chloe if she had been to the library in Brinical. The teacher suggested visiting the Marquise's library together. She suggested reading books to find your favorite one. The girl was pleased to look at the teacher when she sincerely liked something. Her world was limited to a tiny place, but it increased when she met new people. The next lesson was dancing. New emotions again, new feelings, new interesting personality. Betsy was my dance partner. The teacher asked if Chloe liked the lesson. The dance teacher was glad that the girl liked the lesson. And since they still had a little time left, she suggested they chat a little. The Marquise was known as unapproachable in circles among high society girls. The dance teacher asked her how she seduced him. The teacher believed that she simply had to find out the secret method. She wanted to learn how to seduce unapproachable men of high society. Chloe didn't quite understand what the teacher meant. She replied that there was no secret way. Katerina suggested that maybe Chloe's modesty and beauty did not give the Marquis a chance to resist. She also asked when their wedding was. Betsy caught herself that somehow she had not thought about the issue of marriage. She answered for Mrs. that his lordship is gradually preparing for the celebration. The final date has not yet been set. The teacher claimed that the marquise had a very calm character. Oh, she always looks so serious. The invited chattering teacher said that on the street she saw a saleswoman, a girl in shabby clothes who reminded her of Chloe. And I decided to buy a bouquet from her, really hoping that the marquise will like this one. The guest said that she herself likes flowers, but she has a lot of them at home. Therefore, I asked permission to give this bouquet to the marquise. Chloe looked at the flowers in shock. She remembered the horrors of her past life. One day Joseph was drunk and beat her. That day he bought a small, rough bunch of flowers as an apology. Then Joseph said that life had become difficult, and that was the reason to beat Chloe. Chloe understood that this bouquet had nothing to do with her past. Therefore, I gladly accepted the flowers. Katerina did not understand for herself what was happening to Chloe. She saw that the rumors were true. Chloe is incredibly beautiful, but she was just a dummy. In high society, the teacher had no equal in dancing and playing the piano, so she pestered her father to begin teaching the marquise. But she felt as if she were working with an insensitive doll. The teacher considered Chloe an insignificant girl, not a match for the marquis. Over the entire 200 years of the empire's existence, there were only 5 noble families. Among them was the name of the marquis, founders and blood relatives of the emperor. The position and capabilities of the marquis were sky-high. The Vrinnicles did not show their children to society until they became mature. Li was the only one who was able to study what was necessary to inherit the title. She was able to go out for the first time at the planned age. But the marquise couple died 10 years ago during an epidemic. Ash then said that he would pursue an education to become worthy of inheriting the title. Aristocrats with daughters who had reached marriageable age were envied. There were also those who had not reached marriageable age, whom they tried to marry off to the marquis. The teacher realized that Chloe was good at dancing, even though it was her first class. But she doubted that the marquise even knew how to write. She was angry that the marquise ignored her after giving her a bouquet of flowers. She bought the bouquet on purpose, and she personally wrapped the armful in a bouquet. Katerina considered the marquise's beauty unimportant. She believed that her student was no different from a flower seller girl. The envious woman thought Chloe was just a stupid girl who didn't understand how lucky she was. She realized that Chloe was beautiful, but otherwise she considered her a complete non-entity. The teacher was also popular with men. She was beautiful, educated, and from a family with a good reputation. I thought she was better than that idiot Chloe. She believed that Ash Vrinnik was not like other men. He didn't pretend to be smart, but he did not forget about responsibility for his position. The dance teacher believed that she should have become the marquise. It would be better that way, and she will not give up on her plan. The days passed quickly. Every day the girl was busy with homework, and in the evenings she repeated them on her own. Chloe met many more people at the estate than she had in the last 3 years. Everyone was polite and courteous to her. She was surrounded by attention and care. She had a vague idea that this was exactly the life she was living, and the memories of the past are not true. A dream, a terrible fiction. Chloe read recommended books for study. She drew attention to the bouquet of flowers. I was wondering if I should put them in a vase. Betsy offered to help with the bouquet, but the girl asked to leave the flowers where they were. She couldn't understand why she felt uneasy when she saw those flowers. The girl was so lost in thought that she did not notice Ash enter. He praised her for her diligence and effort in her studies. Ash argued that it was okay to net from time to time. Chloe replied that she herself showed a desire to learn. Therefore, it simply cannot do otherwise. She caught herself changing her feelings. She no longer felt awkward when interacting with this man. Ash remained calm even if the girl was silent or stuttered. He didn't get angry, didn't scold her or question her. Chloe was afraid that if Ash stopped coming to her, she would feel empty. The marquis drew attention to the bouquet. He wondered who these flowers were from. She said Miss Catherine Laveround brought them. Chloe explained how it all happened. What the flower seller girl reminded teacher Chloe. That's why I decided to give this bouquet to the marquise. Ash asked if she liked the bouquet. He asked for an answer without relying on the feelings or kindness of others, only based on your opinion. The girl replied that she did not like flowers, that they bring back bad memories for her. Ash asked if she herself sold flowers on the street. Chloe responded in the negative. She became all tense. The Marquis noticed this. He said it's okay to say what you want to say, and that he wants to hear everything that she wants to tell. The girl said that her previous husband gave her flowers. Every time I beat her. Ash opened the window. With his help, the bouquet flew out the window like a bird. The Marquis continued the conversation. He said that no matter how expensive the thing was, if it brings up unpleasant memories, that's bad. Chloe said her memories are blurry, that her husband beat her, then fell asleep, then worked. This happened many times. Ash was asking the girl when her husband started beating her. Chloe said that from the very beginning, she began to live with him. Ash changed his expression. The girl already regretted her confession. She was afraid that the Marquis would despise her for her past. Maybe she shouldn't tell him everything? The Marquis began to apologize for stirring up the past, that he asked Chloe about painful memories. The man said that he knew so little about her, and he had no choice but to question her personally. He also offered to talk to him, so that she doesn't feel embarrassed. He thought it was normal if the words were jumbled or she couldn't find them at all. The Marquis allowed people to scream or get angry for no reason. He knew that Chloe was upset and depressed about her illnesses and memories. He was grateful that she trusted him. He looked at her with all sincerity. Chloe said she wasn't upset, that she was beaten for what she deserved. Ash was amazed by what he heard. The girl was beaten for her excessive appetite. Her ex-husband beat her for incontinence in food. Chloe said there were many reasons. She moved slowly. She was indifferent when she asked for money to buy bread. She beat me for suddenly falling asleep, although she had a lot of things to do. Therefore, she believed that she herself was to blame for her troubles. The girl said that if she had not thought in this way, she would not have been able to bear all that. She realized that she had made a mistake, and she was too stupid. She thought it was only her fault. Ash convinced Chloe otherwise. He believed that a normal person would not hit a woman for something like that. He asked the girl, would she hit a child for false reasons? She answered negatively, but Chloe was sure that she really made mistakes then. The Marquis convinced the girl that she had not made mistakes, especially considering that they were husband and wife back then. Ash assured her that people often make small mistakes in life, and these are not called mistakes. He said that the ex was trying to satisfy himself at her expense. Chloe was surprised by the Marquis's explanation. He said that Chloe did the wrong thing back then. The girl admitted that she was in a lot of pain. At such moments, she wanted to never experience such a feeling again in her life. She wanted to live happily, be in love to be loved, just like in ancient times when I lived happily and carefree. Chloe admitted that she wanted to cry for so long. She wanted to escape from the man who tormented her so much. And I wanted to be happy. Ash cried too. The girl was upset and surprised that he was crying because of her. He said she could cry as much as she wanted. The etiquette lesson was about to begin. The teacher praised Chloe for her diligence. She said that her diligent student prepared with all her heart. The teacher spoke about modern traditions, about the importance of details that are usually ignored. She liked that Chloe asked questions, and the girl said that she was just a good teacher. Elaine noticed that her student no longer stammered or mumbled. Therefore, I began to answer questions normally. The teacher found out that the girl's inability to communicate was caused by prolonged psychological abuse. Elaine claimed that Chloe looks much more beautiful when she smiles. The girl was wondering if she should smile when she goes out into the world. The teacher did not answer clearly, but she said an indifferent facial expression could put people off guard. The girl learned her lesson. Elaine asked how old Chloe was. She replied that she was 25. Elaine tried to figure it out. Uncommunicative, but not lazy or arrogant. Doesn't try to hide behind a mask. Compassionate heart. The teacher believed that if she was not mistaken, then Chloe would go out into the world. And she promised herself that she would help the girl if necessary. Betsy was surprised that Madame was still sleeping. The maid noticed for herself that beautiful people remain beautiful in their dreams. She was pleased with herself that she had prepared a large pillow. She fell in love with the Marquise, that when faced with difficulties, she did not become angry towards others. The maid realized that she could not move Madame to another place herself, and she realized that she would have to wake up Mistress Chloe. The Marquis entered. He asked for silence. Ash carefully picked Chloe up and carried her to the bedroom. Chloe opened her sleepy eyes. He suggested that she sleep a little more. At first, the Marquis was happy to simply bring Chloe. It was not so easy to find a deliberately hidden person. He had a lead that led to that bar. When the old door opened, he saw her and could not even breathe. Her skin looked terrible due to the mistreatment. All Ash wanted at that moment was to strangle the insignificant person and take Chloe with him. Ash wished he had found her sooner. He regretted that he had not become a Marquis a little earlier. He wouldn't have to see Chloe like this. But now he could see her smile. Now she could smile like that time. He was sure to help her. The girl dreamed of her piano. Red Fat Cat. Mom and Dad are nearby. They read a book to her. A friend came in, they are together again. The teacher came to the marquee. She said that today's lesson would be about finding a suitable book. She argued that the Marquise's library was just the perfect place for this. She was fascinated by this library. Miss Matilda thought Chloe was becoming better at speaking, and she was surprised that she and Chloe could do this thanks to their classes. The teacher did not consider herself a good teacher. She loved to read, but she could not refuse the Marquise's request, since his conditions were too good. His lordship promised to show Miss Matilda a place hidden from other people. Once upon a time she was writing a dissertation, and the Marquise's personal documents helped her a lot. Chloe saw the happiness on the teacher's face. For the first time, she saw a happy person busy with his hobby. The girl decided to support a pleasant topic. She expressed the opinion that it was wonderful to write a dissertation, that it's interesting to study someone's major. Miss Matilda praised Chloe for her progress. After all, at first she thought that the girl simply did not want to learn from her. The teacher noticed that her student was thinking again. The girl stood in front of a series of books in 6 volumes from the Marquise's collection. The girl picked up one of the books. It was a book about a girl growing up who especially loved ribbons. It was a story about love and friendship. Chloe really liked her in the past. Miss Matilda suggested that the girl like this book. The teacher told the girl that she also liked this book as a child. She read it many times as a child. And I cried while reading the last volume of this series. Chloe replied that she had only read up to chapter 5. Whenever a new book came out, she would run to the bookstore to buy the book in person. An unpredictable man, Chloe's ex-husband, was an opponent of the book in this series. He didn't understand her. It seemed like the villain in the book knew more than the villain in reality. Miss Matilda promised to keep the plot of the book secret. She knew that every time you turn the page of a book, you anticipate a new turn of events. The teacher clarified whether this is the book her student wants to read today. Chloe confirmed yes. Chloe was glad that she was able to find another valuable memory from the past. Although it was just a book, the girl had fun reading the book after such a long absence. Betsy reminded her that it was time to rest. But who didn't listen to her? She read until late at night, until she fell asleep. In the morning, Betty told Chloe that she should get some more rest. But the lady believed that she had plenty of other things to do. Today, the girl had an activity that she didn't like a little. Horse riding, playing piano, and dancing. She used to attend similar classes as a child, and there was no lack of knowledge. A young teacher told me that horses feel fear, and this can be dangerous for the rider. Chloe wasn't afraid of horses, but after all this time of training, she never started horse riding. Miss Levieren assured her student that she should not lie to herself. After all, we are talking about dangerous things, even if you want to try everything at once. After all, Madame is no longer a child who will take risks out of curiosity. She didn't want to put Chloe in danger, but Chloe loved horses. Later, another teacher will check with the girl the safety of the horse, and after the lesson, he will even try it on the hippodrome. Everything happened with the permission of his lordship. He gave the mentors some freedom on the territory of the mansion. The young teacher reasoned that the land was huge, possibly thousands of acres. But she realized that Chloe might not know the units of measurement and apologized for her rudeness. She tried to explain to the girl that this was somewhere like a village of commoners, like the village where she probably grew up. The funny thing was that the teacher spoke about such a topic only in private. She always tried to talk about topics in which she was strong. Chloe wondered, for what purpose did this young lady come to the mansion? What to be her teacher, or watch her engagement to the Marquis? Miss Levieren never really started teaching the girl anything. Basically, she showed how to do it correctly using her own example. Piano lessons also ended at the initial stage, as if the teacher's knowledge was limited only at this level. The teacher noticed that Chloe looked tired. The girl replied that she had been reading a book until late at night. The young mentor assured her student that she should not read until late out of habit. After all, those who have seen a lot before can read it without any problems. The Marquise should take care of her pretty face. The teacher was interested in what Chloe was reading. She answered that it was the series Girl with a Yellow Ribbon. There was a suppressed chuckle in response. She said that the book was intended for children. It's certainly interesting to read, but the Marquise needs to strive for a higher level. Miss Levieren said that commoners and nobles are two different worlds. That in life you need to be stricter and more demanding of yourself. She said that Chloe could no longer think the same way. That she should learn to do this. The Marquise noticed that the teacher was crossing the line more and more, but she preferred to remain silent for now. She respected Ash's choice and did not want to upset him and burden him with her unpleasant feelings from this person. The teacher referred to her knowledge base, and she suggested that the Marquise follow her advice exactly. She asked if Chloe could read letters. It has been said that the language of the empire is complex. She gladly offered to help. The young upstart teacher continued. She suggested the girl should start with fairy tales with pictures. I agreed to recommend a couple of good books for her. The envious woman was surprised by the expression on Chloe's face. She was glad that her student did not even understand how she had been insulted. Meanwhile, the Marquise could barely contain herself. She was overwhelmed with emotions, but she did not give vent to her feelings. Marquis Ash entered. He said Chloe had a talent for learning, that Count Laviren convinced him of his daughter's teaching abilities. The teacher was scared. After all, she didn't know what the Marquise could hear. I couldn't know how long he stood outside the door. She responded kindly to the Marquise's address. She assured that she could have prepared better if she knew that he would personally come to see how the classes were going. Catherine Laveron knew that the Marquise did not attend classes, and then he gives compliments. This was a great chance to leave a good impression. It dawned on her. Perhaps the Marquise came to see her. Katerina imagined herself to be a lady who was much smarter than the idiot Marquise, and she knew how to behave in society. She was willing to bet that she could please the Marquis. She also admitted to herself that she liked his lordship. How could they say that their feelings were mutual? The Marquise began politely. That Miss Laviren has the honor of teaching his wife, and judging by the humiliating way of teaching, she decided that she was superior to the Marquise. Katerina realized that he heard absolutely everything. She asked her to forgive her. She said she was too eccentric, that I made a mistake. She called for mercy and understanding. Ash replied that he was not the one to apologize to. He said that forgiveness should be sought from his dear wife. Miss Catherine Laverand was surprised. She didn't understand what kind of insensitive person was in front of her. The Marquis Vinicle she knew was always kind. It was warm like sunlight. He addressed himself as my lady. She didn't know him from that side. Katerina believed that she had done nothing wrong, and she did not consider it necessary to bow her head to Chloe. Miss Laverand apologized to the Marquise, stuttering. She asked me to forgive her carelessness, that she had overstepped her bounds and lost her composure. Ash asked Chloe what to do. Should they forgive her? Katerina could not understand why the Marquis spoke to her in one tone, and to Chloe in a different tone. Why did he behave differently with this girl? She hoped that if he realized that Chloe's head and heart were completely empty, he will get tired of her and will soon leave her. And Katerina decided to wait. Chloe said that she did not understand why she should forgive the rude woman for her impudent statements. Katerina thought differently, but she answered meekly and politely. But under other circumstances, she would have kicked her student while she silently begged for forgiveness. Chloe asked what Katerina did wrong. She began to stutter. She thought that the girl still did not understand that she was insulted. Therefore, I decided to play on the Marquise's feelings and get away with it. All you had to do was act like an idiot towards the Marquis. Katerina justified herself. She said she was worried about the Marquise. She explained everything to her gradually, but the Marquise mocked her and ignored her. Chloe replied that this is not the first time this has happened, and in all previous classes they spoke to her in a similar tone. But everything changed as soon as someone else appeared nearby. Ash asked if Katerina sincerely apologized and asked for forgiveness. She replied that she was really worried about her ladyship. Miss Katerina said that she wanted to help the girl gain experience, to show what society is capable of, to show itself from the bad side. Chloe said that Katerina looked down on her. I felt superior, and that she still doesn't feel sorry for what she did. Katerina was sure that she would be forgiven, but the girl replied that she did not want to forgive this man. Chloe believed that if it was easy to forgive her, she will think that she can again behave the way she wants. Katerina convinced the Marquise that she could not treat a person like that because of one mistake. Chloe claimed that this is not the first time this has happened, that she simply ignored her. Miss Laviren said she was sorry, that she really did everything for the sake of her ladyship the Marchioness. In Clarathea Volume 1, a book about music for children, which the girl read when she was 8 years old, it was written how to play the piano. Chloe was surprised that the teacher did not name her any other textbooks for learning to play the piano. Chloe said that she knew of 5 more books by Clorathea. Katerina claimed that she wanted the Marquise to learn to play just perfectly before moving on. Chloe said that she could have finished the first book, and they haven't even made it through 10 chapters. Katerina said that the Marquise was shirking, and the girl was sure that the teacher herself did not know how to play beyond the first volume. Chloe claimed that she did this for Katerina's benefit, and that she should forgive her for this. Katerina laughed. Ash said he heard the yard dog laughing, and he even considered the laughter of a yard dog a luxury for her. The Marquis thought that Miss Leverin behaved very rudely. She assured his lordship that this was a misunderstanding. He replied that he himself decides what is a misunderstanding and what is not, that he has the right to decide for himself what is and what is not. Ash asked to give it to his father, that the Marquis would have to negotiate the Alteron deal with another family, and when his father asks about the reason, Ash asked to name Katerina's disrespect for the Marquise. The Marquis asked me to tell my father that his daughter was fired today from her position as a private teacher. Katerina believed that he had no right to insult her like that. Ash replied that Katerina allowed herself to insult Marquise Chloe Vinical. Then he also has the right in return, that he values the honor of the Marquise, and she insulted her with her behavior. The Marquis asked Miss Leverin to leave the room while he could still control himself, but he warned for the future that from now on one warning will not do. Miss Catherine Laverin sincerely asked his lordship to forgive her. She begged. She asked please. She said that her youth and naivety were the reason for her incontinence. Ash asked the guards to throw the impudent man out of here. She begged and pleaded, but Ash was firm and adamant in his decision. Chloe hasn't expressed her opinion in 10 years. She expressed her opinions clearly and firmly, but she hasn't forgotten what it's like. Ash took her hands. He supported her completely, and I was glad that she handled the situation. She thanked the Marquis for his help and support. He replied that there was no need to thank him. He said he was happy when she was brave. She bravely answered the impudent teacher, that Chloe can continue to express herself. Say what you want. Chloe noted to herself that Ash did not treat her like others. With her, he was a completely different person. The Marquis said that in the future she would meet such people again. He is sure that there will be a lot of them, that there are those who don't know what they're talking about, those who mock others excessively, and those who make things that do not belong to them their own. Even those who like to ruin everything for others for no reason. He said that for such kind, Chloe would look like an easy prey. He regretted that this was the reality. Ash said that as long as she was in this world, she would have to face people like this. After the death of their parents, their friends came. They said Chloe could take care of herself. The manager of the orphanage gave Chloe a room, and it wasn't the girl who shoved all the work, without paying anything for labor. Chloe was stupidly naive, and she was forced to marry Joseph. She felt that freedom was becoming less and less. This was a real fear for any person. Then everything changed. But in practice it remained as bad as before. Even worse. Now she couldn't even say anything. Chloe liked the current situation much better. Lady Catherine did not admit her guilt, but she might regret it in the future. At first the girl even wanted to accept the apology. She asked the Marquis if something like this had ever happened to him. Ash asked Chloe if everything was okay. But does it hurt her? He said he thought she was cute. He was surprised that after everything she had been through, the girl could still care about others. Chloe replied that it was because Ash saved her. Even despite his condition, he condescended to her and saved her. She thanked him for always being kind to her, and that she didn't want him to get hurt. Ash was surprised by Chloe's kindness. It seems he underestimated the amount of kindness that was in the girl. The Marquis asked the girl. She would have hugged him if he had said he was in pain. Seeing the surprise on his face, he said that if he didn't want to, then he didn't have to. No one but Joseph hugged her. His hands were very rough, like a pressing wall. Memories of those times made the girl feel bad. Nevertheless, she didn't dislike hugs from Ash, but she didn't like them either. The Marquis always thinks about her. He asks if everything is okay. Chloe understood that Ash was a different person. She wasn't afraid of him. The Marquis hugged the girl to calm down, but it looked like they were calming her down. He said that the warmth of the human body is calming. Our heroine felt nervous, something warm and indescribable. The girl asked what this feeling was. The Marquis asked to trust him a little more. He touched her hair gently. He stroked his head. She liked it. She pressed her whole body against him. Harsh conditions could easily change a person. There are many cases where good people, having experienced adversity, could radically change for the worse. She asked if the Marquis's heart hurt. The heroine did not quite understand what she was trying to express with these words. Her emotionless face seemed to glow a little, and her barely noticeable smile had the power to change people. She slept and faded away, although these feelings seemed forgotten. The Chloe he knew a long time ago was still hiding inside. Ash thought about it. The Marquis believed that he who was more accustomed to pain would have endured this. Even he would suffer worse than loneliness. He could not understand how a girl with such a kind heart could endure all that cruelty. When he found out that Chloe was married, he decided that he would not even try to win her heart. He could help the girl from the shadows, but her marriage was not about happiness. The husband did not consider Chloe to be a person. Ash was going to get rid of everyone who was responsible for her misfortune. But first, the Marquis wanted to give the girl a choice. After all, people could sincerely ask Chloe for forgiveness, and perhaps by forgiving them, the girl would have found peace of mind. The Marquis considered the incident a coincidence, and I decided to put it off for later. But he promised himself that this was an isolated case when he turned a blind eye to something like this. But Ash promised himself, what if the girl comes to him again and asks him to get rid of someone? He will undoubtedly show all the cruelty. It doesn't matter how long it takes. No matter what, he will love her all his life. Joseph was sitting at the bar. He just finished his alcohol. The man was surprised that just a couple of days ago he was glad that he sold his wife and received a lot of money. And now he only has a couple of coins left. Yes, money comes and goes easily. After receiving a lot of money, Joseph bought a big house. He started gambling big. He won a lot at first. But then the money began to disappear at breakneck speed. He thought he had caught his luck by the tail when he won a whole mountain from a couple of coins. And in the end, I lost everything. He was on the verge of foreclosure on his house. His current woman asked him for money. She called him the best. He caught himself that this woman was only asking him for money. He remembered Chloe. Even though they lived in an old house, their place was always clean. After all, she was clean. The woman did not understand that there was no money. She asked to be told that she was loved, that Joseph loves his Camilla. He touched her hair. He said that he gave her something better than words. I finally asked her to tell me. Camilla started. She was talking about a man who bought his ex, that he was not just a guy with a tight wallet. He was a noble aristocrat. And recently there was a rumor in high society that a commoner of indescribable beauty had become the wife of a noble family. That even the emperor himself approved of that marriage. They said that they had not yet set an exact wedding date. There were also strange rumors, but it was known that that girl was brown-haired with curly hair and mysterious purple eyes. Joseph was incredibly surprised. His emotionless woman now belonged to a famous noble family. He wanted Chloe to suffer. Sold it to amuse myself. I wanted her to be completely finished off. That would make her miss him and suffer even more. Joseph had a plan. He figured out how to hit the jackpot. It is unlikely that the man who bought his woman would want to make her past public. Chloe was the one who cried at his feet for her misdeeds and asked for forgiveness. When he was playing with her, he felt superior. He was older, without education, tired of life. Therefore, he despised his wife even more. She was luckier than him. Because of that incident, Joseph's complex only grew stronger. The worst thing was disappointment in myself. He couldn't accept it. That he sold Chloe to make her feel guilty, to humiliate her even more. This woman was supposed to be inferior to him. The man was going to make a fortune if he stirred up a scandal among the common people and the high nobility. And they will simply be obliged to kick the girl out. Joseph already mentally considered himself rich. After all, aristocrats do not like their blood mixed with the mob. He asked Camilla to find out the details of who has Chloe on his neck these days. He was going to humiliate Chloe in front of everyone. He couldn't imagine that she could climb so high. And if it falls to the very bottom, it will completely break. Betsy was putting the marquise in order. She asked me to be patient a little. There was soon to be a tea party. They wanted to start bringing her out little by little. Chloe understood and appreciated the marquise's concern. But I thought it was too early for her to appear before the general public. She foresaw not the most pleasant things. After all, most people will most likely despise her. After all, she is a commoner who became a marquise. The girl recently accepted that she had become a marquise, and it was all thanks to the efforts of Ash. Count Laveran scolded his daughter in his office. He asked what she had done. Does he understand the consequences? She denied it. She said she didn't do anything wrong. Katerina claimed that she only wanted to teach the overly arrogant girl a lesson. She did not agree that this was done to her. The father explained to his daughter that the commoner had now become a marquise, and that the marriage was concluded and approved by the emperor. He said that she did not listen to his instructions, that she should not have made her angry but behaved like a teacher, that the marquise's position is higher than hers. The father said that he spoke with a lawyer, and he asked why the count wanted to be punished, for humiliation or breaking a trade deal. The marquise remembered every word. Viscount Laverand hoped that Catherine would become close to the Marchioness, and it will benefit his business. But it turned out that now everything has come to an end. Miss Katerina could not understand. Why should you be kind and friendly? After all, Chloe was a commoner. The father tried to explain that Chloe was a marquise, and everything that his daughter said was regarded as a humiliation of the marquise's family. In addition, the Viscount accused his daughter of not teaching the marquise how to behave in society. Katerina was outraged that her father was not protecting her and saying that she was wrong. The Viscount asked his daughter to wake up, that he doesn't protect anyone, but he simply points out her own mistakes. The father told the girl how difficult it was for him to achieve everything, how he worked day and night to keep his family firmly on its feet. The Viscount asked his still young and naive daughter not to be in secular society for now. Instead, he insisted on learning how to behave properly at home. The Marquis said that if this happened again, he would terminate all contracts with the Count concluded with him in the capital. The Viscount told his daughter that he was ready to do anything to maintain his position. He threatened that in order not to go bankrupt, he would have to sell all her dresses and jewelry. Viscount Lavelat could not understand what was wrong with his daughter. With his talent, with great difficulty, he made his way to the capital. He wanted to settle Katerina in order to become closer to the Marquis, perhaps even make friends with him. But his plan was still possible. He read with horror the detailed account of what his daughter had done. The worst thing is that she asked the Marquise to meet the Marquis. She knew what the Marquis was capable of. Why did she behave like that when she was with the Marquise? That she didn't give an account for her actions. The Viscount made a decent fortune, and he spoiled his daughter too much. He thought it was his carelessness that made her so arrogant. Miss Katerina could not control her emotions. She wanted to sort things out with Chloe. The distance between her and the Marquis will soon begin to increase. Isn't it Chloe's fault? The girl harbored a grudge. She decided to take revenge on Chloe at any cost. Chloe asked herself questions. When she and Ash get married, will they still love each other? She understood that there were serious demands on the future heir. And will it be normal that she is an aristocrat of low birth? She was afraid that her child would be treated like a bastard. And most importantly, can she even decide to do this? For Chloe, a relationship is a thing that could only contain pain and fear. These were unpleasant memories. But nevertheless, when Ash hugged her, she felt calm. Who knew maybe they could live happily ever after? During Empire history lessons, Chloe learned a little about the Winnacles. Betsy finished her work. She admired the appearance of her ladyship, the Marquise. She said she looked just great. Chloe thanked the maid. She answered that her beautiful appearance was the fruit of the hands and efforts of Betsy herself. When Betsy learned that the Marquise was heading to the library, she was surprised. She said that among the nobility, one could hardly find a more diligent student than her ladyship. Chloe read about the history of the Vinnacle family. It turned out to be much larger than the girl could have imagined. The girl realized that she was also Marquise Vinnacle. In the morning, the Marquise decided to finish reading the rest of the books at the gazebo in the garden of the estate. Betsy volunteered to help bring her books. The estate looked like a small town. Or was it already the forest surrounding the estate? The girl learned that this family dates back to the very birth of the country. The founder was the emperor's younger brother. Therefore, all family members had imperial blood. He was greater than Chloe could ever imagine. She read in a book that this is a place with a very rich history. Betsy confirmed this. She said that there were many who would like to work for his lordship, that many talented people worked with the Marquis, and one of them was invited by the emperor himself. That this continues to this day. That Alicia's personal maid was invited to work in the emperor's palace. She was allowed to retain her previous position, but she declined the invitation. She said that she loves her current job too much, and she feels good at the Marquis. From what she read, Chloe also learned that only members of the lesser nobility worked for the royal family. She wondered if it was the same at the Marquis's estate. Betsy said it's different here, that she's just a commoner, and almost everyone who works on the estate is commoners. The girl knew from what she had read that the younger nobility used to be appointed to the role of maids and butlers. She wondered when this all changed. Betsy said that the Marquis greeted all employees when he met, that among the court officials there are also those who came from commoners, but became a nobleman. Chloe looked at the castle windows. One of them was a room into which it was forbidden to enter. Ash walked over quietly. He looked for her in the library. And I was surprised what she was doing here in front of the castle windows. Chloe was surprised that the Marquise came so early today. They often spent time together, and we talked as often as possible. But since the Marquis was almost always busy, it was rare to meet him in the morning. On the day when Katerina came, he also came early. She wondered if it was an accident. Ash wanted to tell Chloe something. He said he missed her too, and he suggested we go for a walk. Their fingers intertwined. The girl was surprised by the beauty around her. Ash told her that he also liked this place, and when he was little, he would often run away here just to sit, think, or calm down. The Marquis said that he did not want to run far. He hoped that someone would find him, and in the nearby garden the maid quickly found him. Therefore he often chose this place. He recalled that when he hid, his mother always found him. People thought that this was not the right thing to do. Now for him this place is associated with memories. Our heroine thought. After all, when this man was a child, his facial features should have been softer and his eyes larger. She remembered that child. She remembered the little girl who lived next to her. Unforgettable memories were associated with her. One day the girl suddenly disappeared. The girl's parents were seriously upset. Chloe didn't know why they lived together or why the girl disappeared. One sunny morning the girl was brought home. They and Chloe were given a bath. But could she be a Marquise? Our heroine imagined Ash as a boy. He must have been a very handsome boy. Ash asked her to wait a little and stand still. He knelt in front of her. The Marquis proposed marriage to her. She was surprised. After all, they were already married. He took her hand. He said that it was formally on paper, but he did not formally propose to her. Ash said that her appearance in his life was quite important, and he wants Chloe to sincerely choose him as her life partner. The girl thought that after her experience her heart was forever closed to love. But she wanted to give these feelings another chance. Chloe believed that Ash was worthy. After all, he said that she was everything to him. Propose to her. The girl asked the Marquis, and if she wants to leave here he can let her go? He replied that as she wished. Chloe realized that this man had agreed to let her go today, but it didn't look like he would ever want what he promised today. She was afraid that if she decided to leave, he would chase her. The girl was afraid that this was not just a trick of the imagination. After all, she had already suffered from this in the past. Nevertheless, Chloe agreed to be his wife. The Marquis asked her permission to put a ring on her, and she agreed. He asked him to forgive him for only now proposing to her. The girl was surprised that the ring was the right time for her. It fit on my finger like a glove. Ash told Chloe that the Vinicles used this ring for their engagement. It was passed down from generation to generation. The ring was made of a special metal. It interacted with body temperature, and it itself adjusted to the size of the owner's finger. Ash said that this ring now belongs to Chloe. She must wear it all the time now. The Marquis said that he had long planned to hold a marriage ceremony, and he asked his Marquise for consent to this. She didn't mind. Ash said that if Chloe doesn't like this idea, then everything can be done modestly, only in a narrow circle. The man could not understand what was wrong with Chloe. Meanwhile, she was thinking that, in the end, she had always wanted such an outcome to their relationship, and she didn't dream about it. Our heroine never dreamed of this. She didn't want to miss the opportunity. I wanted to stretch the moment out longer. She wanted so much to be happy. And Ash, he wanted to make Chloe happy. He said that she was his favorite, so that she accepts his gift. She asked herself why the Marquis was so kind to her. Was it because of her appearance? Or did he feel sorry for her? Or did you feel some kind of responsibility? The Marquis was surprised that this was exactly what Chloe was thinking about now. He said that he liked her beauty. But that was not all. He understood her situation and also fulfilled his obligations. But there was something more. The Marquis said that he knew her heart, and he understood the value of her feelings. He spoke words of love, that he loves her more than anything in the world. Chloe was surprised. So that means the Marquis loves her? Is this the reason? He said that if she needed a reason, she could add up everything he had named. After all, no one can explain what love is. Ash said he loved her because she was her, because she is his favorite. Chloe has been burned many times, but I wanted to believe that this was love. After all, when someone told her that they loved her with all their heart, it could go a long way. The girl couldn't understand it. Why do all the words of the Marquis and his actions make her happy? Why did she decide to believe him? She cried. Ash asked where his Marquis wanted to go before the ceremony. He thought that she was tired of wandering around the estate. Chloe said she wanted to go to the Winzella Children's Home. She used to live there. She wanted to accept the past so she could have a future. After all, the past that she denied still existed. But now she was ready to accept him. She was loved. Chloe wanted to understand why it was so difficult to trust people. Maybe when she cut herself off from everything, she was trying to escape? In order for the girl to move on, she needed to face reality. That night, Chloe had a nightmare. Hearty food and a sense of security gave her good, dreamless sleep for a long time. After her marriage to Joseph, she was haunted by nightmares night and day. They always tormented her. When she was locked up at home, she most often just sewed. She endured her husband's insults. He said that Chloe should be proud that he took her as his wife. She considered what her husband said was nonsense. She was angry and in denial. And when she contradicted, she received beatings and mockery in response. That's why Chloe was afraid of the night. When she was left alone, it seemed to her that the nightmare would consume her. She wondered what kind of feeling was bothering her so much. She stood up and walked out into the castle corridor. She thought that there was no suitable place for her in this estate. Chloe wanted to be in the outside world. Somewhere. Just not in your room. She wanted to know what secret Ash Vinical kept behind the locked forbidden door. Although she almost succumbed to his words, she could not open her heart so easily after so many wounds. But besides the kind words, Ash also treated Chloe kindly. He punished people who offended her. He confessed his love and proposed. She opens the forbidden door. If he loves, he will definitely forgive her. Is his love real? She couldn't make up her mind. Doubts, curiosity, fear. She wondered if she should ask Ash for permission. The girl remembered that before gratitude, she felt suspicion. The girl realized that something was broken in her. After all, she had never doubted or tried to believe in the feelings of others before. So far, many bad things haven't happened to her. At home, Chloe already understood that she had had enough now, and you could plunge headlong into happiness. But her heart did not allow everything to be forgotten so easily. Continued to tell herself that she could be happy now. Her heart said otherwise. Ash saw that Chloe wanted to open the door. He wants and hesitates. What will she do when she finds out everything? Will he be surprised? Will he be afraid? Will he begin to despise him? The man was sure that this would not end well, but he was ready to respect her choice. Everything else wasn't that important. Chloe felt that after all the terrible events in her life, she should behave more carefully and respect the promises of others. Our heroine has not changed, although the terrible past left a deep wound in her heart, but it could not change her good nature. Ash considered himself lucky, although he at the same time felt sorry for the girl. He was thinking, what should he do to fill her heart with happiness and love? The Marquis called out to Chloe. The girl was scared. After all, she could not understand how long he had been here. Did he see her doubts in front of the door? Ash asked why she couldn't sleep. Ash asked how often she has nightmares. She replied that it was rare. He was worried that it might harm her, reminded her of her promise to be examined by a doctor. Chloe asked why he woke up. Ash replied that he was an owl, and his sleep is not sound. Chloe didn't know about this. He said that when a lover appears, it is difficult to fall asleep without his affection. Moreover, the Marquis never shared a bed with anyone. Chloe made a promise to herself that one day she would fulfill her part of the marital duty. She wondered how important descendants were for a noble family. Ash asked the girl to relax her hand, and she did it unconsciously. He said that everything he does with her has nothing to do with procreation. The Marquis assured Chloe that if she did not want to give birth, then she could simply take the child from the orphanage. There is no need to force yourself to do what you don't want. He said that she is the one he loves and respects, so he asked her to just be there, and that would be enough for him. Ash asked Chloe not to hide her regrets and fatigue. It doesn't matter that it's personal and painful. He asked me to simply share everything with him. He promised to always support her. He argued that if she was not ready, then she could just postpone everything. Chloe was surprised by this statement from the Marquis. The Marquis said that she was very important to him, that she can't even imagine how much he loves her and values her. The girl was surprised that after Ash's words she felt better. He called her to go to bed already, and he promised that he would sit with her if she was scared until she fell asleep. All of Chloe's worries disappeared, as if they had never existed. She agreed for him to sit next to her. The maid asked if it was true that her mistress and his lordship were going to an orphanage today. Chloe confirmed. Betsy racked her brains about the purpose of the Marquise's visit to the orphanage. She knew that it was common for nobles to show their generosity to the people. But this was the first place we visited together. Chloe dispelled the maid's doubts. She replied that she used to work there. And Betsy realized that Chloe had some memories associated with that place. These could be good memories or bad ones. The maid shouldn't have cared. Now her job was to make the mistress as beautiful as possible. Chloe remembered the manager. Although she squeezed all the juices out of the girl, she never left her hungry. And this meant that she was not the worst person. She was rarely paid for her work, but the money was spent on Stephen's treatment. The manager in tears asked to think about the poor sick child. That's why she agreed not to receive full payment. Chloe wanted to deal with the past so she could move on. She wanted to understand. The manager was weird or was just using Chloe. An authoritative voice asked if the cleaning had been completed by the time the Marquis of Vinical arrived. A thin female voice answered in the affirmative. The manager really hoped that the Marquis would arrive with the goal of donating a tidy sum of money to the shelter. And of course, his retinue will come with him. She was delighted with the beauty of the Marquis. Meanwhile, the Marquis helped Chloe get out of the carriage. The manager noticed the Marquise's admiring glance, and then the manager recognized the girl who had gotten out of the carriage with the Marquis. She could not understand what Chloe was doing here. And why is she together with the Marquis? This simply could not happen. The manager knew about Chloe's background, and she understood that she could become a mistress, but not the wife of the Marquis. This girl must just look like that one. The Marquise greeted the manager by name. She said that they had not seen each other for a long time. The manager Doria was simply horrified. The Marquise was actually the same Chloe. This simply couldn't happen. She couldn't believe her eyes and ears. Doria's face broke into a smile of recognition. She feigned surprise, greeted the girl by name. She clarified that she is now a Marquise. The manager complimented Chloe. She said that she had not seen each other for a long time, which looks great. Then, 10 years ago, the manager seemed so mature to the girl. The girl hoped that she, with life experience and wisdom, would take care of her, the little girl. But it was Chloe who had to take care of other children at night, and about everything else at the shelter. Chloe saw the light. This woman was and remains a hypocrite. The manager said one thing and did something completely different. Doria asked the Marchioness to tell her what happened to Joseph. The girl said that he sold her at auction to the Marquis. Ash confirmed what Chloe had said earlier, and he added that now he has a wonderful wife. Doria continued to lavish compliments on the Marquise. Praise her Marquise. She said that the girl was still a beauty, that she looks like a princess from a fairy tale. Chloe saw another girl. I recognized her. She called out by name. It was Irene. They knew each other for a long time, from the time when the girl worked here. The Marquise asked the girl about her fate. That manager offered Chloe a place and she agreed to work here. Irene spoke the same words that were once put into Chloe's ears, about dangerous men and all that. But our heroine knew that there were both good and evil people. The girl asked Chloe how she was doing. Then she apologized and said that she still had a lot of work to do, laundry. The manager said that Irene has a sensual and vulnerable soul, and so she decided to leave the girl to work here at the shelter. Chloe wanted to talk to Irene alone. Doria replied that the girl was quite shy, so she might not agree, but she promised to ask her. The Marquis promised to offer a donation next time if today's was not enough. He asked to fulfill his wife's request. Chloe asked Irene how old she was, and why didn't she start looking for a job in the city like the rest of the orphanage's children? The girl replied that she did not know how to behave there, and that men scare her. She recalled that the girl used to get out into the city without any problems. Irene replied that Chloe also knew that not all people are kind, and the manager said that it would be better for Irene. The Marquise recalled that Irene used to let her hair down, but she replied that it was better to dress more simply and not attract much attention. It turned out that not a single Chloe Doria destroyed self-confidence. She nevertheless revealed to the manager who she really was. The girl did not know what kind of feelings she was experiencing. Maybe delayed realization or anger, or maybe sadness. The Marquise asked Irene about Stephen's fate. After all, Doria promised to use the money unpaid to her and received from Joseph for the treatment of the boy. Irene said that Stephen died after Chloe left, It turned out that her sacrifice did not save the boy then, that even after the operation he died. Irene said that no one performed the operation. Then the manager said that time was lost, and the doctor simply prescribed painkillers to make death easier. The girl said that this was the best outcome. The Marquise was amazed why the child was not operated on. Chloe remembered very well what the doctor said, that the operation is difficult, but it will help the boy survive. Several doctors were needed. That's why it was so expensive. The Marquise then tried to understand. Where did all her money go, since the operation was never performed? Doria promised Irene that if she continued to work at the shelter, she would find a good husband. Just like Chloe for some reason. Manager Irene spoke exactly as Chloe once did, that the world is full of dangerous men, and she should protect beautiful girls like her. Irene asked if Chloe really married a wonderful husband. Chloe answered in the negative. Doria didn't choose the one Chloe came with today. Chloe now knew what she had to do, but she needed evidence to confirm her suspicions. She should have intervened, but she had no idea how to investigate this case. But the girl knew that she now had someone who could help her. Marquis Ash Vinical. The previous Chloe would have been afraid to ask this, but it was too important for her. She needed to get over herself, deal with dysfunctional relationships. She needed to make room in her heart for the people who cared about her, and she turned to the Marquis with a request. Chloe asked the Marquis to help her in the investigation. She wanted to know what was going on in Winzella's nursery. He clarified what exactly interests her. Is there any theft or fraud going on there? Or something else illegal? Chloe was extremely surprised. After all, she showed no hostility towards Doria. How could Ash assume that he needed to look for something bad? Maybe he often encounters such things. The girl asked the Marquise how often he encountered something like this, and how familiar he is with this kind of investigation. Ash briefly confirmed his competence in this matter, but he was not yet ready to tell his Marquise what he had done to be in his current status. The people who tore what rightfully belonged to the Marquis received what they deserved. But the time has not yet come to tell Chloe about this. Whenever Ash was in trouble or in pain, he thought about Chloe. She was the embodiment of warmth and his first love. He bitterly regretted that he could not find Chloe earlier. He reproached himself that she had to go through all those misfortunes. The Marquis remembered her still laughing and beaming. She was a ray of light in his life. And if she changed, that didn't mean his feelings for her had changed. The girl was already trying to understand herself. The guy realized this, and he didn't want to become another complication for her. He just couldn't tell her how he found her late. The guy promised to fulfill her every request. She thanked him meekly. The guy asked to call him by his name, just Ash. It seemed to him that my lord's address sounded somehow cold. Chloe agreed. The guy didn't ask to love him, but he asked to at least let him become her close friend. The girl replied that he had already become her closest and only friend. The guy realized that she would never know how long he had been waiting for this moment. A few days later, the manager of the orphanage was warily awaiting the arrival of the Marquis. And Chloe was probably going to come too. She was simply infuriated by the fact of the girl's upcoming meeting with her ward Doria. The woman felt like a witch from a fairy tale. After all, the girl she sent to the abyss of hell was now next to the most beautiful man. The only thing to calm her anger was a tidy sum of donation during the Marquise's last visit. She noticed that something was happening to her fingers. Perhaps it was nervous. Doria spent most of the donations and grants from the Empire on the children of the orphanage, and she considered the funds received by maintaining double accounting to be a worthy payment for her work. She didn't plan for Joseph to sell Chloe. After all, the man was so obsessed with the girl. Then she thought that he would never let her go. The manager could not even imagine that such a titled man would become Chloe's husband. And she didn't want Irene to have the same fate. She knew a lot, and having gotten out of her control, she could have blurted out too much. The greedy and deceitful woman decided to sell Irene not as a wife, but as something worse, deciding that she was too kind to Chloe. It was necessary to send the girl to a place where she could not escape. Then she wouldn't have to see her in such a high position. The manager knew many places that needed pretty girls. All she had to do was give Irene one of the worst of them. Irene came in. She timidly reported that the Marquis and Marchioness had arrived. The manager replied that she would come to them now. Not even a week has passed since the last visit. Therefore, the manager assumed that the girl had come to show her status once again. The woman believed that Chloe was covering up the purpose of the visit with an expression of gratitude, and she herself probably wants to pretend to be a magnanimous marquise. All this infuriated her, but she could not do anything. It was necessary to control oneself in order to receive a donation. They were sitting in the office by the fireplace. We drank coffee. The woman told how she had been looking for parents for a sick boy for a long time, and about another who was recently adopted by a loving couple. The manager considered it her merit that her charges were adopted. After all, she spent months looking for suitable parents for that boy. But the Marquise's expression was stony. She wanted Chloe to just nod back at her as usual, and she couldn't understand what kind of expression she had on her face. She hoped that after her stories the Marquises would give the shelter more money. But Chloe abruptly changed the subject. She asked if Doria knew how she lived after her wedding to Joseph. The woman avoided answering that it didn't matter now. She hinted that it was rude to discuss her ex-husband in the presence of her current husband. Ash replied that he did not mind discussing any topic if his beloved wanted it. Chloe continued, gritting her teeth. She said that Joseph humiliated and beat her. She was forbidden to go out and talk to anyone. She was starved while locked up. She was a toy for 3 years. Doria, lowering her eyes, tried to portray horror and remorse. She replied that she could not even think anything bad about Joseph, and that Chloe feels with all her heart. The girl asked to explain what the money received from Joseph was spent on. The manager stammered and answered that she had spent money on the boy's operation, that she knows everything very well herself. Then the girl revealed her cards, that she knows everything, that the operation was not performed, and the boy died on painkillers. And if Irene misinformed her, then she was mistaken. The woman began to wriggle out, that she wanted the boy to have an operation, but the doctor said it was too late. Chloe asked, since Stephen did not have the operation. Then she asked to return the money that was not paid to her plus the money received from Joseph. Doria replied that she tried to return it but could not contact Joseph, and I couldn't do anything about it. Chloe asked where the money is now. The woman grimaced. She considered it petty to become a marquise to ask for such a sum, that she spent it on the needs of the shelter, and if Chloe wants it, she will give it back to her. The girl was disgusted to listen to lies. She understood that there was not a drop of regret in her, that this woman doesn't understand that she did something wrong. Chloe read the doctor's notes regarding Stephen's illness. The chances of saving the patient are high with surgery, but there was a refusal due to the lack of money from the orphanage. Doria smiled nervously and said that this was some kind of misunderstanding. She provided the shelter's financial report, but the girl did not find in the paper either the amount received from Joseph or her unpaid salary. But I found some discrepancy between what was received and what was spent on needs. Chloe noticed that at the same time the amount of jewelry and savings of the manager herself continued to increase. Doria was furious. She accused the girl of obtaining information illegally, but she countered that her husband, the Marquis, had the right to such an investigation, obtained from the Emperor, that he could conduct an investigation independent of the city watch. The man told the ladies that after digging not very deeply, it became clear to him that the list of Doria's crimes was much longer. The woman insisted in a stuttering voice that she was a good person, and they don't dare blame her, that Chloe became a marquise only thanks to her, and everything ended well in the end. But the girl argued that her status and success today would not cure the pain and guilt that she experienced then. And I thought to myself that she would never have sold it if she had even the slightest pity. Chloe asked if Doria had ever been beaten. Does she know what it's like to tremble in fear of something stronger? To those who threaten and beat without reason. That then she began to lose herself. She wanted to cry, but it was impossible for fear of even greater punishment. And then she began to ask for forgiveness without doing anything wrong. She said that she always found herself guilty, and at some point I began to think that I was doing something wrong, even though this was not the case, that she could do nothing but beg for forgiveness, because the man who beat her did not stop until she apologized to him. If she had acted differently, she would already be dead. Chloe said she lived for 3 years begging for mercy, and all because Doria sold her for a few coins. The manager was beside herself with rage. She claimed that she did everything only for Chloe's benefit, but the girl thought that she only wanted her to suffer. I didn't just want to, I did it. The girl used to blame herself, but now I realized that she was not to blame for anything. She partly blamed herself for being too trusting and allowing herself to be deceived. She said that due to her gullibility, her action could not be considered wrong, and she called on Doria to take responsibility. Doria always considered herself superior to Chloe. Although the girl was beautiful, kind, and smart, She enjoyed the power over her. But now Chloe was threatening the manager as if she were a witch from a fairy tale. The woman confirmed that she sold her to Joseph because he was a creep and really wanted her. She admitted that she forced Stephen to beg Chloe to save his life, that only Chloe could do anything for him. In the end, this is how it all turned out. Having calmed down a little, the woman with her hand on her heart confessed further. She said that she was truly sorry that Chloe went through all that, and she didn't think Joseph would beat her like that. She convinced that only through all this was Chloe able to meet a normal and wonderful husband, that she was able to overcome all adversity and meet her prince from a fairy tale. That Chloe succeeded in everything in her life only because she was sold to Joseph. I suggested that she leave everything like that. The woman pulled the strings of manipulation very successfully. She's used to controlling people like puppets, but Chloe has already been cured of this leprosy. She said that if the Marquis had not saved her, it is unknown how many more terrible things would happen to her, that she could even die without meeting the Marquis. For what she has now become, she can only thank her husband, Ash Vrinicle. And Doria has nothing to do with it. Don't let yourself be deceived. Chloe calmly announced that the manager would receive the well-deserved punishment for theft and fraud. Chloe was also interested in how Doria's fiancé would react to what was happening. Then Doria exploded. She screamed at Chloe who was she to threaten her, but suddenly she heard a voice calling her by name. It was her fiancé, and he heard everything that was said and what was happening here. The woman could not know how long her fiancé Gray stood here and what he could hear. And she started tweeting with him. She cooed that her former student became famous and decided to visit her. But there was some misunderstanding. Doria smiled with all her teeth at her lover. She did not expect his arrival until tomorrow. And today, before Chloe arrived, she sent all the important people away. The woman had her first love and romantic relationship with Gray, and she didn't want to lose him. She began to make excuses, but he said he had heard enough. Doria began to make excuses, asked her to listen and take her side. What will he understand when he learns the whole story from her telling? But Gray replied that he seemed to have a poor understanding of people. His face was sad and gloomy. He thought he had met the love of his life, that she selflessly takes care of children and loves them. The man started yelling. He couldn't understand. What a terrible person you have to be, to drag someone into an unwanted marriage and even for money. Gray called off the engagement, offered compensation for the inconvenience, but he suggested out loud that she was not counting on a large sum. It was all over for Doria. Her position, relationships, and what awaited her now. Jail, collections. She thought it was all because she wasn't pretty enough. That if she were beautiful like Chloe, then everything would have turned out differently. Gray claimed that he thought she was beautiful, and thought that her heart was even more beautiful. But he was sad that he could have been so wrong. The man had nothing more to say. He simply turned around and left, not paying attention to the words Doria said next. As the door closed behind the man, Doria turned to Chloe. Is she happy that she was deprived of everything? Chloe replied that she hasn't yet. The manager was horrified. The woman started screaming. She called Chloe offensive names. She even started to let go of her hands. But the Marquis reacted in time and did not offend his wife. He firmly grabbed the woman's already raised hand by the wrist. The woman gritted her teeth in indignation. Ash narrowed his eyes, and he quietly hissed to the manager that she was going beyond all limits, and that it was beyond his strength to endure this performance any longer. He realized that it was dangerous to continue. This woman turned out to be more than just a liar. Her meanness knew no bounds. She got out of any situation. She was looking for an excuse for herself and did not admit guilt in any of the crimes committed. Chloe thought to herself that it seemed wrong to call such a woman a human being. How hypocritical do you have to be in order to, having committed all those actions, continue to pretend to be kind and caring? Doria did not admit her guilt from the very beginning, and even with all the details revealed, she didn't have an ounce of regret. The most incredible thing was that Chloe would have continued to listen to that woman if Ash had not stood up for her. The Marquis saw the girl's nervous tension and invited her to stop and rest. She admitted that her soul was not easy, perhaps because Doria did not beg for mercy. After Ash's frank confession, the girl felt a little better, but she still felt empty inside. Chloe did not feel relieved, perhaps because the other culprits were not punished. Ash claimed that he felt better when he dealt with all the offenders, but he assumed that he and Chloe were a little different. She did not calm down after revenge. Ash asked the girl how she ended up in the shelter. It turned out that after the death of her parents, neighbors came and offered her help. A neighbor couple said that their parents went bankrupt after a bad investment, and there are still debts. Neighbors helped sell his parents' estate to pay off his debts. They also helped Chloe get settled in the shelter. The girl didn't know how to explain how she felt then. It seemed as if she had been sucked into a tornado. She still had a small suitcase with things in her hands when she arrived at the shelter, trembling. Her parental home was on the outskirts of the capital. My father preferred to live close to nature. He didn't like the city crowd, and I wanted to settle even further. But it was so inconvenient to travel to work to make deals. Ash asked how far the shelter is from the capital. After all, they had to get there all day. And as he drove by, he saw many other shelters. Chloe expressed doubts that the conditions there were good. Ash was alarmed by the use of the past tense in conversation. He also thought that the neighbors acted strangely. Chloe felt as if a blindfold had been removed from her eyes, and she finally saw the light. Ash suggested that Chloe investigate this case as well, that if the neighbors help the girl with good intentions, then they are not in danger. Chloe said she wanted to do it later. In the meantime, I was going to pay more attention to the upcoming tea party. She realized that she still had a lot to do, but since she will be introduced for the first time as the wife of the Marquis, she wanted to make every effort to appear in the best light. Chloe sat depressed and tired. It was as if all the juices of life had been drained from her. She was devastated by today's events. Ash understood that his wife felt bad. He assumed this on the eve of the trip, but he couldn't even imagine that it would depress his beloved so much. He said that she really was the most wonderful woman in the world. Chloe replied that she wasn't sure how she felt about him, but she is grateful to him for everything he does for her. That every day he becomes a more special person for her. She said that it was important for her to solve the problems of her past, but you also need to learn to trust and love. Ash was taken aback by her statements. She looked into his eyes. I sincerely sought support and understanding. The man could not resist and began to kiss her. It was a kiss that they both held back for a long time, just as they held back the manifestations of their mixed feelings. After returning home, Chloe spent the rest of the day in bed reading a book. The doctor was called. He said that the girl had a fever. Maybe it's stress or she's overtired today. The girl painfully experienced the feeling of betrayal from people she trusted, and it couldn't just go away without consequences for her health. Chloe's whole body ached. The negative emotions experienced through her naivety wounded her body like blades. These thoughts were eating her from the inside. But she was not alone. She was comforted by the warmth of the one holding her hand. It was her Ash. It was he who saved her from an endless nightmare. The walls Chloe had built in her heart to protect herself began to crumble, but she was haunted by the thought of the forbidden room. The girl decided for herself, since Ash tries so hard to hide something, then she should respect his decision. She must trust him. After all, everyone can have their own secrets. After all, it was impossible to consider a person bad. If he made a mistake, after all, everyone can change. As soon as the girl mentally decided to trust, she immediately, as if by a miracle, felt better. A day later, her fever went away. When the girl felt better, she devoted all her attention to preparations for the upcoming appearance. After all, there were only 4 days left before the tea party. The planned tea party was to take place at the Marquise's estate. A large number of invitations arrived at the Vinical estate every day. As soon as rumors spread about the Marquise's marriage, there were even more invitations. Chloe chose the most beautiful invitation. It was a huge event at the palace that she would be attending. The girl did not know whether she would cope with the test. She felt that she could handle any other invitation she received in the future. The dress and shoes had already been purchased, and since men do not attend such events, the event will be exclusively ladies only. Therefore, Chloe had to endure this test alone without the help of Ash. She walked around the room. The girl's strength gradually returned, and the fever seemed to have gone away too. Ash wondered how she was feeling. She said it was much better, and all only thanks to his support and care. But the girl's eyes were sad, and it still looked painful. Chloe was still in bed. She told the Marquis that she had something to tell him. He was all attention. Her gaze became sad. She didn't know how to start a frank conversation with the Marquis. He touched her hand gently, and the tension subsided a little. The girl nevertheless decided. She said that she wanted to tell him before the tea party, that she wants to share her bed with him. What was said made her feel much better. The man had a surprised look on his face. Of course he wanted Chloe to be there. but I never expected any initiative from her." The girl initially felt gratitude to him. Later, she suspected him, but the more the man showed his love for the girl, the more she began to trust him. After all, she felt sincerity in his actions and words. The girl knew and was afraid that her Marquis might be different. The man reminded the girl that she had just recovered, and he offered to discuss the issue later when she was fully recovered. Chloe claimed she was feeling better, and she offered to spend tomorrow night together. The Marquis argued that she had no need to force herself, but the girl answered him that this was her desire and decision. She told him that she wanted to appear at the tea party as his wife in every sense of the word. Ash couldn't understand what was happening to Chloe. He couldn't even imagine that his wife was so sweet. He thanked her for her courage, and he admitted that he was afraid to start such a topic himself. He was worried that if he spoke first, she would be under his pressure. He gently touches her hand. He asked me to come to his room tomorrow. He was also going to alert the maid to get his room ready. He couldn't wait for tomorrow anymore. The Marquis hummed quietly to himself. He was in a great mood. He couldn't believe that Chloe was the first to talk about getting together. He had a feeling of déjà vu. The Marquis was going to talk to her about this when she was fully settled. But I didn't expect such directness from her. But the man knew that Chloe never liked to beat around the bush, that she always did everything quickly and carefully. The Marquis still believed that it was worth holding off on rapprochement. He wanted the girl to fall in love with him even more. He reasoned that Chloe said she wanted to share a bed with him, and I found myself unable to stop smiling. Even if this is her act as gratitude, or if out of a sense of duty she decided, he was still glad that he could truly become her husband. He continued to walk around the house and hum. His singing could be heard even from the window of the mansion. In the evening, candles were burning in the Marquise's room. The candelabra looked like small trees. Faithful maid. Betsy helped the mistress take a bath. Flower petals floated in the water. Chloe was already accustomed to such procedures and did not panic at the sight of water. The maid was combing the mistress's hair. She helped me change into beautiful underwear and negligee. Alicia reported to the Marquis about the arrival of her ladyship. Chloe followed her, accompanied by the rest of the maids. Chloe was nervous. She was no longer as decisive as during the conversation. She reassured herself that everything would be okay, but she was immediately overcome by indecision, and she doubted that she would suddenly upset him. She was afraid that he would accuse her of cheating, but then she told herself that Ash was not like that everything will be fine. The girl decisively opened the doors. She will still take this step towards Ash. Her feet were shod in soft slippers. The peignoir was floor-length and hid her steps. The girl looked unhappy. Not a trace remained of her determination. She examined the situation in the room. She was a match for the Marquis, his status, character, and hobbies. Weapons, shields, coats of arms. This bedroom decoration surprised the girl a little. She froze in place with her eyes wide open. She was covered with new emotions. The Marquis was pleased. His slightly unkempt appearance and robe did not in the least diminish his self-confidence and good spirits. He was pleased with himself. But the man saw the timid girl, and he asked her to relax because he had not done anything yet. He took her by the ears and looked tenderly into her eyes of an unusual color. He saw that the girl was too nervous, and he offered to drink a glass of wine. Everything was already prepared for them. Chloe refused the wine. Ash then asked her to come closer. Chloe placed her hand on his. They both sat on the bed holding hands. Chloe was timid. Ash was patient and gentle with her. He said that if she didn't want to, she could calmly tell him about it. That he understands everything and is not rushing her. The girl drove away doubts. After all, she was the one who took the initiative. She said that wasn't the case. The man held her from behind by the neck, looked into her eyes, started kissing, cheek, neck. His hand slid from the waist down to the girl's buttocks. He carefully laid her on the bed, continuing to caress and kiss her. Her brown hair spilled over his bed. Her eyes were sad. She began to sink into her doubts and fears. Ash looked at his lover, smiling. He was ready to share everything with her. The girl was overcome with panic. Monsters from the past did not allow her to enjoy the present. She convinced herself that her Ash was different. Chloe held her husband tightly by his clothes. She screamed and cried at the same time. He reassured her. He said everything was fine. She asked him for forgiveness. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The man gave her a package. He asked me to breathe into it. This was a way he knew from childhood to calm hysterics. He spoke to the girl in a gentle voice. I thought she had nothing to apologize for. What will happen to her until she gets better? Chloe realized that intimacy was impossible for her, even with the person she loved. She felt like she was going to throw up. She was afraid. The girl was tormented by doubts, guilt. The secret that she hid did not give peace. She didn't know how Ash would treat her when she found out everything. She didn't know how she would survive if he left her. After all, he was the best. She asked him to forgive. She expressed her regrets. The girl cried that she had disappointed her beloved. Ash looked at the girl calmly and a little sadly. He saw that his Chloe was scared. He said he didn't blame her for anything. He asked to be allowed to look at her face. The girl took her hands away from her face. She looked at how the room was decorated. I noticed how hard Ash worked for their evening. And she blamed herself that it was all in vain. She asked why he was so patient with her. After all, if Joseph were in his place, nothing would have stopped him. And then he would have left slamming the door. The girl convinced herself that you need to accept the fact that the Marquise is not like Joseph, and not just different, but much better. Ash gently stroked the girl's cheek. He said that he also sometimes gets angry and experiences emotions, but he's just trying to restrain himself, especially when he thinks how dear she is to him. Chloe was afraid of what if she told him what happened that night. Will she get rid of the feeling of guilt that is eating her from the inside? And will she be able to forget the past and stop blaming herself for what she did not do? She was afraid that Ash wouldn't believe her, and that made me cry even more. Going into self-eating with your monsters. Ash told the girl that he roughly understood what she had to go through, but he doesn't know all the details. Therefore, he cannot know all her feelings. But he was absolutely sure that it certainly wasn't her fault. Oh gently stroked her ear. The Marquis said that there is no need to force yourself, that he was grateful for her kindness, that she was trying to do what she was afraid of, because she was worried about him. He said he wanted them both to have fun, and pressed his face to her hair. The man said that if only he felt pleasant, he would be no different from an animal. Chloe finally realized what it was, that Joseph acted like an animal, who cannot control his desires. She said it wasn't because of him, and not because she doesn't love him. It was more likely the other way around. Because she loves him, she wanted intimacy between them. But the girl admitted that she was scared, that after intimacy, Ash could become cruel like Joseph. The Marquis had his arm around Chloe's shoulders from behind. He said that he would never be rude or cruel to her, that she doesn't need to force herself to do something she doesn't want to do. His heart began to hurt, and it's not because of Chloe's lack of trust. He felt sorry for the girl, realizing how deep her wounds were. Ash and Chloe were lying on his bed. He hugged her shoulder and was already beginning to doze off. He suggested that we just sleep together today. He offered to forget about her fears at least for a while, and remember that she is the most important person for him. Or think about the desserts they will eat tomorrow. I just asked you to imagine how sweet and tasty they would be. He offered to bring that non-human here, so she can do whatever she wants with him. But Chloe replied that she did not want to see him even for the sake of revenge, that he just wants to live on as if he didn't exist at all, that if Joseph had any sense, he wouldn't look for it. That didn't mean she forgave him. I just didn't want to waste my time on someone who would never ask for forgiveness. Chloe wanted to look to the future and not dwell on the past. She and Ash have a bright future. She said that it was all thanks to him, Ash. Thanks to him, she began to have dreams and desires. That night, they did not sleep together as a married couple. And the girl didn't know if it was even possible for this to happen. But she knew for sure that her husband would never force her. And he will be waiting for her. Ash said they still needed to rest, and Chloe thought about it. How selfless love can be wonderful and warming. Tea day has arrived. Sunny, clear, it foreshadowed many new impressions for our heroine. The girl was supposed to attend the tea party of the Countess of Nyborn. Her position and the invited guests were suitable. The Countess was famous for her good relationship with all the ladies in society. This was a good chance to appear in high society as a marquise, and she chose a ladies-only event. To make a good impression on the ladies before attending an event where everyone will be there. Perhaps when Ash appears, everyone will pretend to be in his presence, simply because his title is higher. And this way, there will be an opportunity to find out the ladies for what they really are. Chloe was worried, and not just because of the tea party. She doubted whether to cope. Ash suggested that she set a date for their wedding. The Emperor himself wanted to set a date for them. But Ash also suggested Chloe pick a date if there was a special day for her. The girl claimed that they could carry out everything according to the will of the Emperor. But Ash suggested that she think about these. He said that her loving husband was quite capable of doing everything as she wanted. Chloe realized that she felt so ashamed after that night. She just couldn't look Ash in the eye after that tantrum in his bedroom. The girl asked herself whether she deserved such happiness. And at this time the maid put her on green high-heeled shoes. Chloe was happy. And at the same time I was nervous. But now she needed to concentrate on drinking tea. She was ready. A modest light dress, a green jacket and shoes, a black bow on the neck, discreet jewelry, light makeup. The maid Betsy complimented Chloe on how wonderful she looked. The girl could not miss this opportunity. She needed to take the Marquise's place in society next to her beloved husband. She looked at a teddy bear that was exactly like one from her childhood. These minutes gave her the strength to gather her courage. Chloe, looking at herself in the mirror, said that she could handle everything today. The estate of the Countess of Nyborn was famous for its beautiful gardens. The gazebo, fountain, paths, flowers. Everything was like in a fairy tale. The owner had 2 children, 8 and 6 years old. She wasn't unusual in anything, but her aura calmed everything around. The Countess greeted Chloe. She thanked her for keeping them company today. She spoke seemingly formulaic words, but her eyes smiled with sincerity. She complimented the Marquise, that she is as beautiful as they say about her, and she said that it was an honor to meet her. Chloe responded by thanking the Countess for the invitation. The girl expressed her joy at enjoying such a wonderful tea party. The Countess offered to go to the rest of the guests. Chloe felt many appraising glances on her. The ladies discussed her and washed her bones, but she was ready for it. The girl realized that she was much more nervous than she had expected, but she shouldn't have shown it. She understood that if she made a mistake today, it wouldn't just end in a bad mood. After all, the name and honor of the Vinical family was at stake. The ladies approached Chloe. They introduced themselves, smiled, chirped, and laughed. Everything went as usual. But then one person attracted the attention of all the ladies. Everyone began to speak in low voices when she appeared. She was older than the others. Her gray hair was decorated with sapphire jewelry. The lady was leaning on a cane. The years have not been kind to her, but she behaved quite confidently among the young chirpers. The lady's face did not express any emotion. Fine wrinkles settled around her green eyes. The red and black dress made her look like a confident and distinguished lady. This lady went straight to Chloe. The girl could not even imagine what was in store for her. Otherwise, she would have run away from the event without looking back. The lady began without making any curtsies. She said that she came here on purpose, because I heard that there will be someone who does not live up to her position. She guessed it was Chloe. The girl understood that the lady was clearly hostile. Chloe remembered that she had studied all the members of the imperial and noble families very carefully, that even the pages were erased from such efforts. And she remembered exactly the description of this person. The girl said that she was honored to meet Her Majesty, and she humbly bowed her head in front of the lady. This was the Honorable Empress Caroline Elsa Ridigaya, widow of the previous emperor. The girl introduced herself, Chloe Vinical, but the lady barked at her, that she didn't give her permission to speak. Chloe asked Her Majesty to forgive her. She made excuses that she was very excited about her presence. The girl did not dare to raise her eyes to the lady. The Empress said that she had heard so many rumors, that she just had to see everything with her own eyes. But now it became clear to her that she had simply wasted her time. The lady said that she now sees that Chloe is an ordinary commoner. The Countess saw Her Highness and hurried to Chloe's aid. She said that she did not expect the Empress to attend such an insignificant event, and she asked permission to take her to her place. Her Highness told the Countess that her standards had dropped greatly since their last meeting. It's just a disgrace to invite such a commoner. Chloe stood there speechless. I didn't know how to respond to such humiliation. The Countess understood that it was worth taking into account the opinion of the Empress, but she also could not afford to fall out of favor with the Marquis Vinical. It was important for her to maintain neutrality. The Empress said that her mood was spoiled, and she asked that a carriage be prepared for her, that there was no point in her staying at a tea party with such low-grade guests. Chloe was dejected. She didn't even cry. She was stunned by such words from Her Highness. Soon Chloe began to cheer herself up. After all, everything didn't turn out as bad as she expected. She was neither insulted nor beaten. The Empress spoke to her, but she could have simply ignored her existence. And the fact that she arrived without an invitation already spoke of the crowned lady's interest in her personality. Of course, the Emperor's mother could make the rest of Chloe's days in high society much worse simply by sheer will. The girl prepared herself for the fact that at the tea party someone might be opposed to her. But she didn't even imagine that it would be a member of the imperial family. And the ladies in the garden continued to tweet and gossip. They gathered in groups and smiled sweetly at each other. But now Chloe was shunned. The girl understood that even though she was a marquise, but it is quite normal to stay away from the person who was just criticized by the former empress. Of course, she didn't count on this, but she couldn't do anything about it. A lady turned to the girl. She said that since this was her first tea party, she's clearly a little nervous. It was Countess Elowina Hatweed. Chloe replied that she was glad. I'm glad that at least someone talked to her. The Countess asked permission to join her. The girl didn't mind. The Countess supported the girl. She said that it was not easy to hear such rude words, but she praised that she behaved well at the same time. The girl thanked her for the lessons. After all, everything was thanks to them. After all, everything should be natural for her. The Countess confessed. She knew she always looked confident. But she also remembered how she had not closed her eyes the night before going out into public as a countess. Chloe and Countess Hatweed were sitting at the tea table. The girl expressed surprise at her interlocutor's admission that she too was an insecure person. Elowina thought the marquise was doing a good job. She praised her in every possible way and encouraged her with stories from her life experience. Chloe would never have thought that she would be well received by a member of the imperial family in the person of Countess Hatweed. She expressed her gratitude to Dame Elowina. The Countess sipped her tea decorously, listening to Chloe's words addressed to her. She admitted that there was some reason for the Empress attending today's tea party. I asked if Chloe was interested in this. The girl asked to share it with her if the Countess doesn't mind. Elowina revealed that the Empress may be hostile towards Chloe because of her personal life experiences. The girl did not understand what we were talking about. Her eyes widened and her face stretched a little with curiosity and interest. It turned out that the Empress had 3 children. Except for the current Emperor Rudolph, she had 2 more daughters, the youngest of whom, Olivia, cut off all ties with the imperial family and left the capital, all in order to be together with the commoner she was in love with. The family persuaded her to stay, but the girl renounced her title in order to get married and become a commoner herself. Chloe understood now that the wound was caused by the daughter's marriage against the will of the family, that it is now difficult for Her Majesty to even just see her daughter. Perhaps the Empress believed that her daughter had disgraced the honor of the family, or perhaps she was even angrier out of love for her daughter. Either way, Chloe now knew that she had only come all this way to humiliate her. The Countess continued her story. She told Chloe that Olivia soon died far from her home. Her husband tried to escape, but he was caught. Nobody knew why he decided to run away. It didn't look like he was a murderer, but that case was closed. But what the Countess told me happened a long time ago, and that girl was about the same age as Elowina. After that, the Empress was always against marriages with different social status. Chloe was digesting the truth about the imperial family and their family tragedy that had fallen upon her. The Countess warned the girl that those who are not familiar with her may be wary, but sooner or later they will become friendlier when they get to know her better. Elowina confidently asserted that there is no such person in the world that everyone would like. That's why she advised Chloe not to pay attention to those who didn't particularly like her. According to what Chloe studied, Countess Hatweed was neutral in her alliances. It was the same in the Winnacle family, but they preferred to lean towards more useful solutions. But in this case, the Countess was the first to lend a helping hand to the girl, when others diligently avoided her. Today, Chloe gained something incredibly valuable. The girl told the Countess that she was stunned. I'm overwhelmed by her kindness today. The ladies at the tea party continued to tweet about various trifles. It's nice to smile and make faces at each other. Countess Elowina was amazed. She realized how incredible Chloe was. She stood incomparably above all those high-born ladies. The carriage drove steadily along the paved road. A team of horses easily pulled the Marquise's luxurious carriage. Ash Vinnacle was sitting in the carriage. He thought about the events of today, which was quite a busy day for his wife. There were rumors that the venerable Empress put on an interesting spectacle at the tea party today. He was sure that Her Highness spoke calmly, but her words were like daggers for his Chloe. After all, the venerable Empress was known to everyone for her prejudices, and she doesn't accept the possibility that Ash Vinnacle could have fallen in love. Most likely, Her Highness believed that the man bought Chloe for some ulterior motive, or she believed that the girl was using him to climb the social ladder. The Empress couldn't stop looking for ulterior motives. Otherwise, she would begin to blame herself for the death of her daughter. A woman with the highest position in society showed her anger without realizing it. To escape the growing feeling of guilt, she was just a tired old woman, despite her status. Ash was worried about Chloe's condition after that conversation, considering her caring and kind-heartedness. Ash was afraid that the girl would just keep everything to herself. He asked to stop the carriage. They arrived at the estate. It looked like someone bad and vile had slipped past the guards. The Marquis felt this with some kind of animal instinct. He understood that he needed to be constantly on guard. Otherwise, he will be dead. The Marquis walked through a densely overgrown part of the garden, which he knew like the back of his hand. He listened to every rustle of a leaf. In one particularly densely overgrown place, he discovered a red-haired infiltrator into his garden. The man tried to hide from sight, hoping that the area was large and he would not be caught. But the Marquis quickly overtook him. Joseph was the scout. He wanted to meet Chloe, but the Marquis himself overtook him. He knocked down the intruder and placed his heavy boot on his back. Joseph did not expect to be discovered. He asked the Marquis who he was, but Ash immediately recognized him by sight. The blonde asked why he was hiding in his garden. After all, it seems like their deal was completed a long time ago. He told him what he probably didn't know, that even 100 years ago, entering the territory of the nobility was punishable by death. Joseph became bolder. Plucking up the impudence, he began to smile. He said that my lord must have made a mistake, that he was afraid that he had sold him too plain a girl. The Marquis began to boil. I asked him to stop talking in vain, and tell him that he sniffs around here like a rat. After all, he was paid a decent amount. Joseph could not understand what was happening to the Marquis. He expected a completely different reaction from him, because he considered him a sissy lord. Camilla found out what noble family Chloe ended up in, although that took more time. After all, aristocrats were involved in the matter. It was not difficult, since the wedding of the Marquises was now on everyone's lips. True, the rumors were very different from the truth, and no one knew that the Marquis bought his wife at an auction in a bar. On the contrary, there were rumors that Ash fell in love with a commoner who was in trouble, and now he was courting the girl. And he even already received permission from the emperor himself to marry her. Their wedding caused a stir even among the highest echelon nobility. Joseph savored it. He asked the Marquis what would happen if high society found out that he bought his Chloe at an auction. The vile man thought that Marquis Vinical clearly did not want the world to know about his little secret. And his Chloe, of course, too. And Joseph was absolutely sure that he would definitely pay him for his silence. And it was easy money for him. He was waiting for the opportunity to threaten Chloe with this, because the girl was easier to manipulate. This would definitely frighten her, and she would immediately rush to get money for Joseph for his silence. And Joseph wondered why he had to stumble upon the Marquis. He replied that he just wanted to know how his ex-wife was doing. He admitted that it was difficult for him to even speak when he looked at him like that. Ash answered quite rudely that it seems he didn't tell such trash who he was. But considering that he was able to get into the garden, he was able to find out everything, perhaps with the help of his mistress. Joseph was amazed. Where does the Marquis come from with such knowledge of all the details? Ash wondered out loud that the scout must have run out of money. A heavy scarlet bag with strings fell to the ground at his feet. Ash said that it would be better for the man to disappear from here. The Marquis threatened. He told him not to even think about trying to see Chloe again. Joseph listened silently, gritting his teeth. He understood that the Marquis was not to be trifled with. He answered with narrowed eyes. What he sees is that it seems that my lord really loves the girl, but she is far from being as ideal as she seems. Ash briefly answered the man to get out of here while he was still alive. But Joseph did not let up. He asked, "Does the Marquis know how many men Chloe has seduced with her appearance? That she once deceived him with her innocent face? That she knows how to flirt and suck up?" The man claimed that the girl was actually frigid in bed, that she doesn't even know how to satisfy a man. He said that somehow, on an innocent occasion, Chloe went to a neighbor. But in reality, I wanted to meet her husband. That he then managed to knock these bad habits out of her. But now he was worried about the Marquise. He expressed concern that such a prominent person could fall into Chloe's trap. That if you don't watch her, she will behave like a corrupt girl. Ash said that he understood what he meant, and he asked why he should care. The Marquis said that he loved the girl. Joseph was taken aback. He expected a completely different reaction from the Marquis to his revelation. Ash said that for now his beloved wife does not want anything to happen to Joseph. Therefore, If he kills him now, he will deprive her of the opportunity to personally get even with him. And then, until the end of her days, she will be tormented by the memories of the terrible things he did to her. The Marquis advised him to get out of his garden if he valued his life. Joseph was not going to give up. He thought that he could defeat the Marquis in a fight. It was beneficial that there was no one nearby. He quietly reached for the bag on the ground. Joseph more than once emerged victorious in street fights. He thought that the handsome aristocrat would become more modest after a good thrashing. He said that he forgot to tell the Marquis that his hand squeezed the bag. He explained that his motto is, an eye for an eye. His fist flew into the Marquis's chest. But the man's hand was quickly intercepted by the Marquis. He held his opponent's wrist tightly. The man screamed in pain. The Marquis almost broke his arm. Ash was outraged. I considered him a stupid and ignorant idiot, that he dared to enter the territory of the nobility and tried to attack the aristocrat. Joseph quickly fled as soon as the Marquis threatened him, and if he had done it his way, he would have dealt with the scumbag long ago. But he promised Chloe that he would respect her wishes. If the girl wanted revenge, the Marquis would definitely help her. And even if Chloe wants to forgive the scoundrel, Ash promised to accept this decision. After all, he loved her. He protected her. She was his sunshine, a ray of light in his life, and he treasured every hair on her head. But the Marquis decided for himself that he would not allow the scoundrel to escape just like that. The trash was not allowed to show weakness. The Marquis could only hope that he would not return here. Let him be glad that his hand remained intact. Ash decided to send someone to keep an eye on Joseph. What if, after the warning, he dares to do something else? They won't just let him go next time. He promised to make Joseph's life a living hell. Although his life was not always so smooth. Chloe was sitting on the couch reading a book. She perfectly remembered the lessons of her mentors and did not miss the opportunity to educate herself. Suddenly, the girl heard steps. He looked away from reading the book and became wary. Her Ash walked into her room. He smiled tenderly at her with his carefree smile. He asked if she was waiting for him. His eyes glowed. Chloe thought to herself that she would really miss that smile if she never saw it again. And she smiled in response. The girl answered briefly, yes. The man said that he knew about her troubles at the tea party. Chloe confirmed. She said that the venerable empress suddenly decided to attend the tea party. The girl closed and put the book aside. She thought that the maid had told her husband everything. The Marquis asked if the empress's appearance surprised her, given that she was not on the guest list. Chloe replied that it looked like they were deliberately trying to make her look bad, that Her Highness does not like the fact that the Marquis married a lower rank. The girl realized that they were from different worlds, and she understood that many in high society were against her and Ash's marriage. The man said that the venerable empress could be understood. After all, the Vinicles were direct descendants of the imperial family. Therefore, Her Highness felt that she had to look after everyone. Ash asked Chloe to forgive her for having to go through such a hassle. He suggested getting to know each other better. That one day they will be one. He said that one day she would decide to trust a charming and wonderful gentleman. That someone like that is sitting opposite her and only thinks about her. The girl made an artificially thoughtful face. It seems like it's difficult for her to decide on this. Then she started giggling, and Ash began to confess his love to her. He said that for the sake of her attention, he was even ready to beg her a little. Both had fun like children and enjoyed communicating with each other. Having calmed down, he said that he really thought so. She replied that she knew everything. The Marquis asked her, what if something bothers her? Then she should definitely tell him about it. He expressed fears that his wife would keep everything to herself as usual. Chloe promised that if she couldn't handle something on her own, she would tell him about it. But for now, everything was fine. The girl said that after the Empress left, Countess Hatvid drank tea with her, that they had a rather interesting conversation. And Eloise supported Chloe by talking about a difficult topic. So the girl assured her husband that she was fine, and she still has a lot of invitations, and she was going to give it her all. She sincerely wanted to become someone worthy of being with the Marquis. With her Ash Winicle, the man told the girl that she was very brave, and he thought it was admirable how she put in the effort. He said it was her persistence that made him fall in love with her. Chloe said she wasn't brave at all, that she is afraid of many things, and he often beats himself up. Ash assured her that the hell Chloe had been through was enough. He thanked her for returning to him. Chloe couldn't understand. Why does he thank her for simply being alive? She knew that it was impossible to explain why you love a person. And his love for her is always so kind and tender. The Marquis asked his wife, has she already chosen where to go next time? Since there were many influential people at that event, now Chloe was going to visit a place where there would be a lot of diverse audiences. The girl was considering attending Lady Irene's event. She realized that she could not please everyone, but she hoped to improve her reputation by attending various events. Ash supported her. He said it was a great idea. The man considered it right not to tell her about the meeting with that scum for now. He didn't want the girl to start worrying even more. He understood that Chloe's heart would need a lot of time to calm down after the experience. Even surrounded by loved ones, it takes a lot of time to recover. Ash knew this from his own life experience, that being betrayed by someone you love hurts deeply. The death of loved ones causes even greater wounds. It's hard to be deprived of everything, and then be saved by a ray of light and the most unexpected people. He understood that now it was his turn. Become that person for Chloe. He told her not to worry about expenses, that she should prepare her outfit as carefully as knights prepare their armor before battle. To avoid being looked down upon, he advised her to spend a little on herself. The girl thanked him, but she said that she didn't need to spend a lot. The Marquis was amazed. How did Chloe manage to remain so charming? The girl thanked him for the right to make her own decisions. She expressed her joy at his support. He said that he could also give her power and wealth. The way the man told her this scared the girl a little. Chloe answered smiling, that she knows that she can always count on his support, that he will always be there. Ash, looking over his shoulder at his wife, remarked that she had gotten pretty good at flirting with him. If she keeps looking at him like that, and her arms will accidentally hug his waist, then he will fall in love with her again. He said he knew a lot about the two of them, and the girl playfully called him a sly fox, and she said that she saw him wagging his tail. The Marquis was already speaking to the girl in a serious tone, that she can always tell him everything if she wants to. He extended his hand towards her with an open palm. The girl timidly touched his hand with her fingers. He took her hand and started kissing it. He promised to always be on her side. Chloe reasoned out loud. Come to think of it, Ash always asked her to tell her how she was doing, but he never told how he was doing. Then he allowed the girl to ask him any question if she was so interested. The girl asked if she could ask too. Ash allowed her to ask 3 if she wanted to question him so badly. She asked what Ash's parents were like. The Marquis was surprised by such questions. Chloe said she wanted to know more about them. After all, it was they who gave her their son. She heard that his parents died of illness when he was a child, and she would like to meet them. Ash said his parents were great people. His father is a kind and extremely honest man, and my mother always said with a smile only what she really thought. The boy was their only child. Therefore, it is difficult to convey in words how much love and care he received. And there was someone else, to be honest. Their relationship was not straightforward. Not everything was smooth. Chloe understood how sad Ash was when he lost his parents, just like she once did. Ash said his parents died unexpectedly. One person was somehow involved in what happened. Even before there was an opportunity to find out the cause of their death, that same person became close to him. He pretended to care. Suspecting infection, the parents' bodies were quickly buried, and other causes of their death were not considered at all. And Ash realized their cruel plan when it was already too late. Then he vowed to take revenge on them one day, and the boy then ran away. That's when he met her. You're Chloe, my love, your own sunshine. It was then that Chloe's parents hosted him. For some reason, he passed it off as a girl. Without knowing it herself, she became a ray of light in his life full of despair. He asked Chloe if he could tell her one of his secrets. Nobody knew about him. He said that the story was not very pleasant. And will she agree to listen to her? The girl, of course, wanted to. She wanted to know everything about her husband. Everything. He continued that his parents, according to the official version, died of infection. But in reality, they were poisoned. Poisoned by someone they trusted the most. Chloe was alarmed by such a frank statement from her husband. The Marquis continued. His parents were in good health, so when they suddenly fell ill, they died a few days later. Everyone in the estate thought that everything happened due to a dangerous infection. This is what the adults explained to him. After all, a child can put anything in his ears. He believed then, because there was no other explanation for their sudden and simultaneous death. But in fact, the Marquis's parents were poisoned by someone who was lower in status than them. When the boy found out the truth, he became numb. His ears were ringing from shock, but he could not do anything since the conspirators were much more powerful than himself. All the boy could do then was run away, and hope that one day when the time comes he will be able to avenge the death of his parents. He was too small then to be able to do anything. That's why Ash understood Chloe. When she felt helpless because she couldn't do anything, the girl expressed her regrets to him, although it took a lot of time. But Ash returned and was able to make that man pay for everything he did all those years. That's how he came to find Chloe. The girl always thought that there was something hidden behind Ash's smile. It turned out to be something much worse than she could have imagined. Chloe realized that Ash was able to handle everything alone. At the same time, she was able to do this only thanks to his care and love. She was afraid to even imagine how difficult it was for him. Chloe truly admired Ash. The girl decided to ask about the forbidden room. She assumed it was his parents' bedroom, but the man said that he now uses their bedroom as his own. And in that room there are memories of those days when he was truly happy. And he is simply embarrassed to show it to anyone. The man asked if Chloe wanted to go into that room. She replied that she was curious, but if he doesn't want to, then it's not at all necessary. Ash leaned his face against the girl's shoulder. He said that his Chloe was too charming, that only with the help of his love for her was he able to cope with all the adversities and regain his rightful title of Marquis. Those responsible for the death of the parents received a well-deserved punishment. Chloe noticed that the way Ash smiled when talking about such a sad and painful time was similar to how she was hiding behind the curtain of her indifference to the world. It seemed that not many people knew about such a shocking story of the Marquis. To relieve tension, the man switched the direction of their communication to humorous topics. He started fooling around like a child, and Chloe didn't mind. She noticed that his hackneyed phrases weren't so bad. She praised him for coping with all the difficulties. She said that she was happy to be with him. He asked to pat him on the head, and again they felt like children. But soon Chloe became sad again. She asked her beloved who killed his parents. Ash always knew that one day he would tell Chloe about this. I just didn't think that such a moment would come so quickly. The Marquis said that the ill-wisher was his uncle. More correctly, he was his father's half-brother. And after his parents were poisoned, he inherited the title of Marquis. That man was smart. But as soon as he decided to commit treachery, he became capable of betrayal. And then there was a battle for the right to become the head of an illustrious noble family, between a young but full-blooded heir and his experienced relative who had been cunning for years to achieve his position. And there was nothing more suitable to become the scandal of the century. Surely such a story would have spread throughout the empire, but only a few members of the imperial family know the truth. Even if someone knew, they would not dare to talk about it publicly. They didn't speak because they were afraid of the Marquis's anger. If anyone dared to open his mouth, Ash would not only come for the speaker. He would make sure that everyone spreading false rumors disappeared. Chloe realized that Ash's parents had died before her own. Ash was a little older than Chloe after all. But then he was still a child. The situation was dire, and the boy had to run away. But he was able to change everything. This alone demonstrated his fortitude. While Chloe herself just sent Doria to prison, and she didn't do anything else, to take revenge on your offenders. The girl didn't exactly believe in forgiveness for any action. She just wanted to use her strength to move on, and not to get bogged down in the swamp of the past. She asked her husband, "Does he think it's stupid that she doesn't fight against those who betrayed her?" The Marquis replied that there was no right solution, and everyone does different things and can make different choices. He said that her decision not to take revenge was not at all wrong. At least in her place he would punish everyone using all methods available to him. But the Marquis said that she should not do the same. He reminded the girl that everyone is different. He promised to always respect her choice and take her side. Chloe thought about it. Was there anyone significant and loved in her life besides her parents, who cared so much about her? As a sign of gratitude, the girl kissed the man, the one who could move whole mountains on his way for her sake. It was a sunny, clear day. The mansion's garden was full of flowers and fresh green herbs. Collectible koi carp swam in a man-made pond. There were new jewels on our heroine's dressing table today. She specially bought them ahead of time for going out into high society. Unlike the previous tea party, Lady Neela's current charity evening took place inside the large hall. A motley crowd of people attended this evening. There were those who came to donate money, and those who came to buy. There were many people here from different walks of life, from the nobility to wealthy peasants. Chloe had attended such parties before with her parents when she was a child. Her parents often attended such events. It was a good way to meet new people in the industry. Chloe was recognized by noble couples, unlike the ladies who refused to approach her out of fear. There were also those who simply decided to say hello. After all, there were really a lot of people. The reasons for their interest varied. Some were curious. Others simply wanted to exploit her connection with the marquis. There were even envious and hostile people. But occasionally there were those who were really glad to meet the girl. A commoner girl becomes a marquise, like the heroine of a romance novel. She knew very well that her very existence was a separate reason for conversation. But then, according to the title, a painfully familiar female voice greeted her. The lady introduced herself as Grace Raymond. She was nice and polite to Chloe. There was sincerity in her words. Chloe knew this lady by a different name when she was a child. It was Lady Randall. The girl greeted him in amazement. Grace Randall and Stephen Randall were a couple living next door. They often visited Chloe's parents. Her father worked in trade. He started with a small shop and successfully developed in this business. And her mother was from a distant country. And Chloe didn't know that any of her mother's relatives were here. When their family moved to the outskirts of the capital, they had no friends left. But they have good relations with their neighbors. And when Chloe's parents were killed, the Randall family were the only ones the girl could turn to. It was they who told the girl that her father's business was on the verge of bankruptcy. And they found her a job in an orphanage. Chloe admitted that the neighboring couple could not have known that the manager would be like this. After all, Doria really could convince people. And look completely innocent. They found her a job so far from the capital. They didn't check on her or look for her. She realized that she was nothing to them and did not expect anything more. Therefore, the girl no longer asked about them and did not poke her nose into matters. But unfortunately, they met again. And since this happened, Chloe was not going to back down. Chloe suffered injuries that were so severe that she no longer wanted to turn a blind eye to what was happening. She started the conversation first. She said that we haven't seen each other for a long time, probably about 10 years. For the first time since they sent her to work in an orphanage, the lady confirmed. She said everything was right, naming the girl Missy Vinicle. Chloe was surprised by the woman's equanimity. She simply beamed with delight from meeting the girl, and joyfully called her according to her rank and title, and she couldn't understand. Either the lady is experienced enough, or there is no reason to worry. Chloe was still suspicious of Lady Randall, and she was quite hostile towards her. Life taught the girl to check for sincerity everything that people offered her supposedly from the heart. The girl noticed that things seemed to be going well for them and they received the title. After all, the neighbors used to be middle class. But today, clothes and accessories spoke of a fairly high position. The lady confirmed that they had changed the name. The Randall family met the dying baron. He had no heirs, and he gave them his title. They changed their last name. And now she became Mrs. Raymond. But the current Chloe still did not believe in the touching story. She knew that Randall couldn't afford to buy even the lowest titles. Chloe was a commoner, but she lived a fairly rich life. After all, her father's business flourished, and the father could afford a lot to his family, inaccessible to most commoners. But when the neighbors told the girl about the debts, she was heartbroken, and she didn't listen to anyone except that neighboring family. Or maybe she shouldn't have trusted those people so much. What happened next to the girl was like a hurricane. She hastened to escape from it all, and she didn't have time to check what actually belonged to her. Chloe was so depressed back then that she didn't think to look into her father's office or go to a lawyer to check her assets. After all, the Randall family could have appropriated her father's fortune and buy yourself a title. Chloe received enough education to understand all the points, and her life experience told her that she should not neglect personal boundaries. Mrs. Raymond told Chloe that she had something to say to the girl. That year, the girl went to the shelter. Her parents' partners panicked that the deal had fallen through, and the neighbors made a new deal with them, and she still feels like she owes it to Chloe, that they were confused when taking on a new business. After all, they had never encountered anything like this before, and they couldn't find her. The Randalls only heard that the girl had left the shelter for another place. Mrs. Raymond said she was glad to see the girl beautiful and successful. The woman said that nothing was preserved, but they bought the office where Chloe's father used to work. She said that she was glad to meet and be able to hand over the key to the office to Chloe, putting her hand in her red purse. Mrs. Raymond said that when she was poor, she had the habit of carrying a bunch of keys with her everywhere, And thanks to this, she could give this key to Chloe today. She said this was where Chloe's father used to work. And does the girl remember where it is? Chloe held it in her hand and couldn't believe that this was a piece of memory of her carefree childhood. She looked at him and remembered. When her parents died, she cried a lot and was afraid to be alone. And Mrs. Randall often stayed with her overnight. And if a woman carried this key for years to give it away, it was possible for Chloe to believe in the sincerity and mercy of all her actions. Chloe almost cried. She couldn't understand. Has everything she's been through made her so sensitive? Mrs. Raymond told Chloe to come whenever she wanted anyway. And she said that all the documents were left in the office, and other ladies recognized the marquise and came up to greet her. Chloe replied that she was uncomfortable, and she offered to pay a fair price for her father's office. She considered it dangerous to simply accept the kindness of an unfamiliar woman, but she replied that it originally belonged to Chloe, and the girl's parents were so kind to them. The past Chloe would have gotten emotional and started crying. But now everything was different. The girl accepted the key. Mrs. Raymond was pleased. She said that even though it took a lot of time, but she is glad that the item returned to its owner. She also promised to change the office to Chloe and send her documents. To manage it, it was necessary to register the office in their name, but everything was ready to return him at any moment. The girl was taken aback, meeting with an old friend, an echo of the past. Her father's property, which was simply miraculously preserved and now passed into her hands. Missy Raymond was apologetic. She said that she still had meetings scheduled. I briefly said goodbye to the girl, expressing the joy of their chance meeting, and hope that there will be a chance to see each other again. The woman said that she would like to come with her husband next time and see each other again. Chloe politely told her that she hoped so too. Chloe looked at the key to her father's office. She couldn't believe it was true. The past caught up with her, and it didn't always hurt the heart. It was a pleasant memory of her childhood and its new possibilities. After all, so much time has passed, and the key, although old, is clean. It was as if so much time had not passed. After going through many difficulties in life, Chloe learned to doubt everything. But she understood that if the neighbors appropriated her inheritance, the woman would not have approached her. And I certainly wouldn't hand over the key to the office with documents. The maid asked Chloe about her parents' affair. She confirmed that it was a big and prosperous business. What my father started from the provinces and then grew and moved to the capital. Betsy said the Raymonds were known as successful entrepreneurs, and they started their business about 10 years ago, having found reliable business partners. And now their business is thriving, just as Mrs. Raymond told them. They started the case with former colleagues of Chloe's parents, but since Chloe's family's business failed, she couldn't say for sure that the Raymond family had taken advantage of him. After all, if the girl's parents went bankrupt, then she should be grateful to her neighbors. After all, they merged the business, and my father's business partners did not suffer losses. And Chloe refused to believe in the Raymond's selfishness. But her instincts told her to be careful, and she decided to visit her father's office first. And I will probably have to meet the Baron and his wife at least once again, to transfer a certificate of ownership. The woman was now called Grace Raymond. She was the wife of a baron, and no one could even imagine how much effort had to be made for this title. Of course, they initially had an advantageous position. Having put in the effort, they got the desired result, although they didn't really understand the vision of the business. After all, 10 years ago they had nothing, but a chance arose which they took very well, and they did it better than they could have ever hoped. After that, they had a child. More accurately, they were twins. A son and daughter were born at the same time. Then the happiness of the newly made parents knew no bounds. But one day, an unexpected meeting occurred, which became a great opportunity for them. The woman saw a familiar face in the crowd of ladies. Then she remembered the neighbor's child that they had hired to work in the orphanage. One lady said that this was the Marquise Vrinicles, how she was introduced when she arrived. But Mrs. Grace came late and she missed this moment. The wife of the Marquise of Vrinicles was now the most talked about person. She said that the Marquise fell in love with a commoner at first sight and immediately married her. That the Marquis, despite the difficulties, received permission to marry from the Emperor himself, and now no one could object to her new position. Mrs. Raymond could not believe that the wife of the Marquis of Vrinicles was the same girl Chloe, the same one they once hired to work at the shelter. The shelter where they placed the girl to work was located quite far from the capital, and because of the affection that appeared, Grace found a good place for the girl. However, the woman asked the director of the shelter to find a job for the girl there in order to keep her there as long as possible. Chloe had a beautiful face, and the woman was sure that she could get a pretty decent husband. But I couldn't imagine that it would be a marquis. Moreover, he is related by blood to the imperial family. The woman's informant said that the Empress Dowager suddenly appeared at a tea party for high-ranking guests and humiliated a commoner in public. But for those gathered, the title of Marquise was the highest. Mrs. Raymond could pretend she didn't know Chloe, but having become a baroness, Grace learned what fame and power are, that they cannot be bought with money. The woman could no longer ignore her desires coming from her heart. After all, Chloe could be used to create close relationships, which will definitely come in handy in the future. And now that the Countess became a mother, she felt a slight remorse for what she had done in the past. The woman remembered the girl's eyes, full of tears, her childhood fear and despair. Then Chloe did not doubt their words because the child did not understand anything. Then her husband took the lead, and she simply nodded in confirmation of his words. She was a little sorry now, but I would have done the same anyway. After all, the girl doesn't know anything. Grace thought it was worth the risk. When they had no money, the woman began to carry a key with her, and now it was a reminder to her not to be reckless. And no one knew that that key could be so useful. She understood that it was worth giving up little in order to get something more. And now there was such a case. The woman realized that Chloe recognized her immediately, and she was a little surprised to see the indifference on the girl's face. But at the same time, the girl did not look cunning. The woman noticed that the smile disappeared from the girl's face, but the feeling of innocence remained as before. Grace thought there was an opportunity and it was worth taking advantage of. She wanted to rise even higher by meeting a girl. And when her husband comes, they will have to think about what to do next and decide something. The more Chloe looked at the teddy bear, the more it resembled the one from her childhood. Or maybe even better. At that time, the girl wrote down her experiences in her personal diary, and she hid it in a teddy bear. And the girl with whom she was friends found and read those notes, leaving the answers there. Sometimes it was trivial things about what the girl wanted for dinner, and there were really difficult experiences for her. When Chloe introduced herself, she only remembered the girl's name. She introduced herself as Erin, and the girl didn't remember her saying her last name, but she remembered blonde hair and blue hair very well. At first glance, the girl thought she was cute. She had a slightly arrogant, cat-like expression on her face, and she liked to answer any questions briefly. Soon the girls were even sleeping together, holding hands. Her smile suited the blonde guest so well. Chloe noticed that Erin and Ash had a similar aura. Her memories may be blurry, but they seemed like brother and sister. Chloe understood the improbability of her assumption, because Ash was definitely the only son of the Marquis Vrinicle, and Erin was a child whom her parents picked up on the street. There was something else strange. After all, Mom and Dad didn't really tell their daughter anything, and she didn't even think about it. She was just glad that she had a friend. But the girl appeared out of nowhere and disappeared into nowhere, before you even have time to feel the sadness of separation. Chloe faced even greater grief when her parents died. Chloe wondered how that girl was doing. She sincerely hoped that the person from her happy memories did not have such a difficult life as hers. Chloe confessed in the teddy bear's ear that she had a very hard day today, that she met a bunch of different people. Then suddenly she heard her husband's voice. He expressed his desire, so that his wife tells him everything and not the teddy bear. The girl was so happy to see him. The man smiled and infected his beloved, who had just been sad, with his positivity. Chloe admitted that she didn't hear him when he arrived, but the man replied that he was trying to make a little noise, and his habit of walking silently is simply irresistible. Why does a successful person want to hide his steps? What made him become so cautious? What dangers taught him to be so silent?